Hey, you guys, this is Julian Klein, and you're listening to the Bladeology podcast.
All right. So I think we're just gonna jump into it this week, as we have set a trend doing. Welcome to another episode of Bladeology podcast. We're joined this week by infamous knife maker, forger, and man of all trades, Mr. Matt Diskin.
Nice. Hello.
None other
Hello.
than Matt Diskin.
Infamous.
I'm Jeremiah Burbank from PVK Vegas. I'm also here with a couple other people.
Elijah Isham from Isham Blade Works, and my personal Instagram.
I was bleeping that. Nick Chuperin of NCC Knives.
I'm Matt Diskin.
Bam.
The infamous, I guess.
I would say infamous for sure. I think your reputation certainly precedes you.
Okay.
for the best.
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah. So we're pretty pumped to have you on here. Obviously, we've talked to you at shows many times. We're all familiar, but I think there are many questions waiting to be spoken about and answered and asked that Nick and Elijah have for you, as certainly I do. But let's get into the early stuff if we can. Let's go over the Matt Diskin timeline. How did
wagon train?
Yeah. Essentially the motion west and the forging of the river and the building of the teepees from the wagon.
Building
obviously.
of the teepees.
Well, let's see. I as a kid, I was kind of a woodworker with my dad. Definitely into tools. And then it carried on. Basically, as I graduated high school, I was building some furniture and doing some cabinet work, tables. And then I moved down to California to go to school and fuck around and learn things that weren't involved with school. So I ended up basically in an engineering program that was a systems engineer. And we learned all about robotics and machining in general. It was setting up machining centers and systems to fully automate basically chip production, because it was in the Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. And so I learned all these skills as far as the machine shop was involved. Both the conventional machining, grinding, surface grinding, as well as real early on CAD programming and CAM programming. Even a lot of it was focused on what are called SCARA robots, which are like the pick and place robots you see for assemblies in automobile production and the such, the moving arm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we had different forms of CAM program that we were learning, as well as the early AutoCAD stuff. So the first AutoCAD I learned was 11, which was all commands. So it wasn't GUI interface at all. Basically, I had to know all I'm making myself sound really old, but it carried on into regular AutoCAD that I still use today. And as well as Fusion, SolidWorks. So as I was going to school in San Jose State, I started making knives, kind of in a garage, living in a place called Capitola, which was right on the beach in Santa Cruz, and basically had a shitty little 4-inch grinder in my living room and was teaching myself to grind blades, ground a couple hundred blades and gave them away. Then I got myself a real grinder. And about 3 years into it, I contacted the Vallotton family. So it was
About what year is this?
1996, I would say.
Oh wow.
Oh
Okay.
God, I was born that year.
Just as old as Nick is.
Okay, so I went up and I called him and basically talked to Rainey, and Rainey's like, I was having trouble grinding. He's like, I'll teach you how to grind. So I went up there and spent a couple days, and we actually made my first double action. He taught me how to grind off an aluminum block, straighten everything out, and we went through the whole process. I had already made a couple lockbacks at that point, but went through basically a liner lock with a cross pin release for a double action, and it was sort of dagger shaped, like what I was leaning to. It kind of led to the fishtail knife.
I was gonna say I have a knife that looks very much like that you're describing.
So yeah, the fishtail was basically my first semi-production, attempt. And while I was up there, I should say that I really hit it off with Butch. The first time we met, Rainey and I have been friends all this time, but Butch and I have almost became best friends for a long time there. We talked all the time and traveled to shows and stayed together at all the shows together. So over the years, I built a really cool relationship with Butch that I treasure.
That's awesome. That's
So-
very lucky.
Yeah. I don't know. It was very much like a father figure in my life. So, going back to the Fishtail production, this is still like 1996. I had a friend up here who had already graduated college in like 94, and he went to work for a company called, back then it was Flow Technology, I think it was called in the beginning. And it was basically the beginning of today's modern water jet cutting machine. It was developed. This company was all based on government grants, and they did all kinds of crazy shit, from polishing satellite lenses with water jets to they were cutting Cadbury chocolates at one time just using liquid nitrogen and no abrasive. And so my friend Dave, he spent a year just on aggregates, figuring out the best sand type to use for water jet machines. And they finally came up with garnet, which is what is the industry standard today.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the innovations happened at this. And anyways, he worked there. And so I was able to cut out my prototypes on one of the very first water jet machines for that Fishtail.
Nice.
In
Now-
96.
This isn't going to be interesting for most people, but for me, so what kind of PSI? I've seen water jets run a lot because when I used to share space at NJ Steel Baron.
Yeah,
But what kind of PSI?
The
What kind of
intensifiers
specs?
were already invented
Mm-hmm.
earlier on. This company pretty much put everything together. It didn't happen until Ingersoll Rand created the nozzles. It's a carbide nozzle.
The carbide nozzle. Okay.
And then into the nozzle goes an orifice, which is a ruby. So that was all kind of invented by other people, but they put the actual machine together with the sand injected in on a table. There was a guy, Muhammad Hashish was his name, my friend Dave's boss, and he went on to form Flow International, which is the biggest water jet company. And a lot of the stuff was spurned from their OMAC, and it all came from this area. But yeah, we would work in AutoCAD 12 and then convert it to like a very early version of Mastercam, and then spend 12 hours trying to debug all the programming, get it into this ancient post processor, and then cut out the parts. And so He did all the prototyping. I actually found a company up here when I did the production run that cut out all the fishtail parts. So for years I was doing fishtail daggers. Made several hundred of them. 400 or so.
You would water jet the fishtail, and then you were machining, because the one I have is relatively contoured, so you were hand contouring that, or you were milling the contours?
Hand contouring,
wow.
hand chamfering, and then hand contouring. So I ate a lot of titanium doing those. The insides were CNC'd, the pockets.
Okay. Yeah, for the mech?
Yeah. For the trigger. And it's one of the triggers that Butch taught me that I never really felt that comfortable with. It doesn't have a lot of spring engagement. So I don't get them back anymore. I haven't for a decade. But in the beginning, a finicky movement for sure.
So
finicky
was that
mechanism.
Was that an early Pac-Man steer, or was that?
No, it's called a teeter sear. So it's basically like a latch. A lot of the autos that are single action are like a latch lever, where it's just a block, rectangular block, and you push on one end, and the other end dips into the blade.
Oh, so, like like an Italian or like a Mykov.
Yeah, like a latch release. So this is a latch release that is tilted at an angle and it engages the leaf spring.
Okay.
So it locks down the leaf spring, and then the rest of the blade works as a regular. Everything else is free to work as a regular liner lock or frame lock.
How many different types of sears are there, like, that are known?
Ooh, that I know of?
Yeah.
6.
6?
Wow.
There you go.
Interesting.
And off topic, how many of those have you used?
3.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one that I took apart in Amsterdam, which one's that called? With the sheet metal.
That's basically my saddle, and it was based off Butch's first scale releases. Was basically half of that. It was just an L-shaped tab that was screwed down and bent over into the plane of the blade.
So it wasn't supported on the other side.
It wasn't supported on the other side. So that's what I did. I was able to have those made, supported on both sides, so it distributes the force across both liners. Yeah, it's easier to trigger that way, and it also allows for more engagement.
The thickness has to be very accurate, because you pretty much always have to use the same thickness materials to get that one to work. Like I took that one apart, and everything has to always be the same, and then also it's a pain in the ass to put together because you kind of have to like angle it in.
You do. You have to know how to put them together for sure.
Yeah, because when we were at Bill's shop, he took that one up the Amsterdam apart, and like the most important part of him taking the final things apart and how it comes apart. I turned my head at that moment, and I turned back and he's like, "Okay, put it back together." And I was like, "Oh fuck, I don't know how to make it put it back together."
That saddle goes.
Like 3 hours?
No, I put it back together like 5 minutes.
No, he
it was like a good solid 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it was pretty impressive though.
There's a little trick to it. You just got to turn it over and spin it out.
So you were water jetting the fishtails and machining them, and then hand contouring the bodies.
Hand grinding all the blades.
All hand ground blades. Fitting the mechs, too. And you were doing this all in Oregon.
It started in California, and at that time, about, say, a year into it, I was living in this place in Santa Cruz called Harvey West Park. It's basically like an industrial park. I was living down in this space, and above it was band practice studios till 3 a.m. Yeah, there were no, I didn't have my own private bathroom, so I was like taking Cuban baths, every day at the band studios. And...
Hey, bro, my situation right now at my shop, so I am not that far.
Cuban bath.
So, anyways, my parents are like, "Listen, we got this place up here on the island. Why don't you come move your shop up here?" And California it always was pretty nasty as far as being a switchblade maker.
Yeah.
It was always on the back of my mind, so.
Not the best place to be for that kind of stuff.
And Santa Cruz itself is not a very industrial place. Nobody's really there to work hard. And, see, I was much more industrious. So it worked out. I came up here, moved my shop. I didn't have that much stuff at the time. And then proceeded for a few years to continue to make the fishtails. And then,
so while you were making the fishtails, were you still? I mean, obviously, you're in Butch's neighborhood.
yeah.
So you guys were like hanging out and like working on stuff, developing, or like?
Yeah, we were working basically towards the V&D.
Okay, all right.
I
was gonna get to that.
That came around the year 2000, I think.
Okay.
So he had already done. Rainey had done some scale releases that triggered from the other side, the rear scale, the Sidewinder. And Butch had done some, and Butch had come up with this sear and had some contacts on through his Timberline stuff that he was doing.
Right.
And the guys from Timberline, John Anton, introduced us to our Taiwanese manufacturer that we ended up going with. And basically got it all designed and had it made, so we had to add a few parts after we brought it in. It came in and it was just a regular folder.
And these are because of customs laws, correct?
Yeah, so we added the sears and the springs and the actuator, which the actuator is basically what the handle attaches to.
Right.
That returns it back into place. And at that point, it was all Butch's. Internally, it was all Butch's idea. I designed and drew the CAD on the outside.
So that was using his one-sided sear that you were describing earlier, or that was okay.
Yep.
All
They were all the one-sided L sear. The saddle sear didn't come about until the Amsterdam.
Okay.
And then I started using it on everything, on the Fire of the Revolution.
I was gonna ask you new ones because I never, when I had the Fire, I never had the chance to take it apart.
Yeah.
So that was before I was a maker, so I was scared to take that apart.
It's got the same sear, and I wouldn't venture further. I don't really like the Pac-Man sear because it takes up more room in the choil. You need a bigger choil.
I actually like the Pac-Man sear because in my head it was easier for me to make it.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to make pretty much a frame lock dual action with almost like a sliding bolster, kind of like a little dovetail piece.
The Pac-Man sear is actually Butch always called it the Ford sear because it was designed by a guy named Ford Swagger. You may be able to find some of his knives online, but he's a guy from Oregon, from Butch's neighborhood.
Right.
Really
you were
really inventive stuff.
You were telling me that is so the right. So Butch learned actually from another guy.
If I would say,
I mean, I'm not asking you to speak for him, but just
So there was one guy before him named John Hopkins, who was making double action autos. He was from Eastern Washington. Cheney.
Wow.
What is it? Oh, I'm like thinking, why is the name so familiar? We have John Hopkins Hospital.
I'm like,
John Hopkins. He made small like inner frame double actions where you would push on the inlay. Really.
So that type of knife has been in that neck of the woods of the U.S. for generations. Then
it's like Bigfoot.
No, this guy's not that old. He's probably younger than Butch.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's okay. But Butch is not a young guy.
And Butch didn't get into knives until he was in his 40s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's impressive.
He had another son named Shaun, who I believe was actually the genesis of it all. He started making knives first and got Butch into it, and Rainey as well around the same time. They all moved up from California up to Oregon.
Interesting.
And Shaun died 2 years ago.
Oh,
he was younger. He was the youngest. their youngest son. He made double action autos too. Left hand made was his
Nice.
tag.
Does anybody know like where the start of the double action mechanism, the sear and everything, where like the culmination of it happened?
A lot of it had to have been out of Butch's mind.
Really? Yeah.
Certainly
That's really impressive
advancement of it.
that he started doing that when he was in his 40s.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
crazy.
You see a lot of people have their best ideas, in their 20s.
Yeah, kind of early on, yeah.
Musicians, scientists, even, knife makers. I always used to talk about this.
Damn it, so I have to figure out some cool shit now before I get older.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a naivety to being young where you don't realize how much it takes to get something done. As you get older,
just kind of.
I think I already passed
you're like, Jesus, I'm not going through that process. I know what it takes to get it done right. So, yeah, it's there's this thing I call a basket of creativity. It's kind of a theory I've got.
Do tell.
We're all born with this basket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as we come into like a craft, whether we're a musician or even a scientist, you've got this basket of raw ideas. You don't really know all the stipulations and parameters of how things are meant to be. So you're willing to try all these crazy things. And then as you develop stuff and take stuff out of your basket, you have less and less of this creativity, and you start basically emulating yourself or emulating other people.
Yeah, and it kind of becomes like a parody of yourself, which is kind of the worst thing to do. Yeah.
And this is where stylization and personalized stylization comes in, especially in knife making, where people develop, a style that you can see from across the room.
I know one thing that a lot of people ask me, like, what's the most important part about like designing knives, or anything to do with pretty much any aspect of visual art is, you have to kind of come up with your own style. Like that's the most important part, is to discover and then be able to reproduce your style like consistently.
Yeah, like design language, right?
Yeah, once your style is set, you've got these set of parameters that you kind of work under.
Yeah, it's like it's done, and then you can just go off of it. Yeah.
But it's really hard to take a jump to the left from there and come up with new things.
Yeah, it is.
So,
everything I make ends up being a freaking Tanto or a Warncliffe, and I'm tired of grinding Tantos. They look great and all, but I want to grind something easier at this point.
To find a guy like Butch who was able to come up with new and inventive mechanisms and ideas, that late in life, and then well into his 60s.
Like literally an invention. Like that's not like a thing.
Yeah.
Like that's like he literally invented something. Yeah.
It is. It's a rare bird.
That's pretty incredible.
So the V&D was like just for the record, that's Vallotton and Diskin, right?
That's what it was.
That was a collaboration.
Kind of a play on words too.
It should have just been called the VD.
It was the collaboration. The first couple hundred we assembled together. I ended up assembling the last couple thousand of them myself, but Butch would make the sears, so he would do parts and I would do parts, and I don't even know how many we ended up with.
Right,
it was a lot.
But I remember seeing V&Ds for like when I started hanging out when I was older with Josh in the shop. Like I remember seeing a V&D and handling it. Probably in like, I don't know, like 2008 maybe 2000.
Yeah.
Like 7.
It went on for a good close to 10 years, I would say.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, wow. All right.
And we shared a table at the Blade Show together for all those years, room together, and and then I basically. Boker wanted to do a deal. Boker actually had a deal with the V&D, We worked out a deal where they distributed them in Europe, and we did the American side because they were working with the same manufacturer in Taiwan. So we had a couple meetings with Karsten and set it all up. It was actually a pretty good deal, and then that led to you know what the Coronado was? Coronado was
sounds familiar.
It was a little assisted opener, like less than 3 inches. And I did that by myself.
Wait, was that the slimmer version? That was a Vulcan, wasn't it?
It was Vulcan.
Yeah, that's why that sounds familiar. It was like had like a really slim handle with like a beefy blade. Yeah.
Okay. And Kershaw ran that after, right?
And then Kershaw did the strobe based on the thing. Exactly.
That strobe was like the first thing I'd seen of yours. And I was like, whoa, this is like so simplistic, but yet, like I don't know, it just looks perfect.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was, had a little run. It was one of those first ones the strobe that proved that they could do a KVT bearing, non-assisted.
You know what? I don't think it was the strobe. I think it was the fixed blade version of it.
Well, there was the Diskin Hunter was first.
Yeah, I remember that's what it was, because at the time I was like super into bushcraft still, and I remember seeing that and I was like, oh, this might be a cool option for like a bushcraft knife. But I think it was hollow ground, so like it wouldn't work as well. Yeah.
Made in the US.
Okay, so I was gonna say, so that was the fixed blade was under the Kershaw label.
Under the Kershaw label, yeah.
Okay, which you got to awesome. from Boker with the notoriety from the Boker.
No. So the Boker and I did the Coronado together. Same thing where we split the tooling. They got the European market and paid me a royalty, and I got the American market.
Okay, so that was not a Vulcan. That was just
the Vulcan. They did it under.
Okay. So it was,
remember, Boker has an OEM that they kind of run.
Yeah.
Which kind of died for a little while. You didn't see people working with them. Now recently, there's like kind of resurgence of people running their OEM again.
And they used to sell all kinds of stuff in their catalog, Spyderco and all Benchmade and stuff. They were like a distributor at one point for all that to the German market. So they didn't mind taking on another brand name, which is what it was. And then they wanted another double action. So I very quickly drew up the Amsterdam. Didn't spend a lot of time on that drawing. And at first it had a Spidey hole. And they took it to Spyderco, and Eric's like, I don't think we're going to be too happy. So we changed it to that oval shape.
Really?
I don't think we're too happy about that.
Gosh.
So it turned into a pretty good product. There's still a demand for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Amsterdam is still. I mean, you still have that at shows with you now. Like you had those in
still have
Vegas.
A few left.
If I had to make like a correlation, it'd be like like the swatch of the double action autos, which is like awesome. Yeah. It's like literally, it's like the most cost effective like double action you can get into.
Oh yeah,
pretty awesome.
No, the Amsterdam is super legitimate. I mean,
it has like no competition.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't ordered anymore because I have to order a couple thousand of them.
Yeah.
And it's just I'd like to get something else going, a new design going. Just have
do like the same build, but like in a new design or something.
Yeah, same internals for the most.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
It'll happen sooner than later. So, let's see. We're at the Amsterdam.
The Kershaw. Yeah. So Kershaw to Amsterdam, and then where does that take us?
So then it kind of takes us to about 2010, 2011, and that's where I met Matt.
Yeah.
Because I remember I got my first show was 2009, and I met Matt when I was 15, so I guess 2011, my second show, when I actually started spending more money on knives, and he showed up to the New York Custom Knife Show, and everyone thought he was a new maker back then. Well, because it was his first time at the show. Matt, I don't know what your impressions was on that. Like, what did you think when everyone was there? He showed up to the show with But the Diskin Fire was $350. Everyone was. It was pretty much the talk of the show. This guy with $350 is dual action, which most people still didn't know what that was back then. And
yeah, that was fun. I had done the show 2001 or 2002.
This is New York still.
Yeah, it was at the Crown Plaza.
Mm-hmm. Because I missed New York by 2 years.
Square.
When I started, I was already Jersey.
And so I did it 1 year, and I got so fucking pickled the first night. I basically slept through the show on Saturday.
Oh boy!
In layman terms, he got really fucked up.
Yeah, I only made like
didn't
a couple
go
hours.
much work.
I didn't come back for another 15 years.
Wow.
10 years.
Sometimes it happens.
Wow.
Shit.
Yeah.
So you got so fucked up in New York, you're like, this isn't a good place for me.
Yeah.
Because in 2001, you would have would that have been like your first knife show, other than maybe the Eugene show or something?
No. First very knife show was like 97.
Yeah, he said he was doing
in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay, yeah.
This is the original Blade show, because I remember Blade
and
was
before then,
first.
I used to go basically as a hobbyist maker, living in the Bay Area. There was a lot of shows. There was a San Jose show. There was a Sacramento show.
Okay.
There was also a San Jose, and then the Bay Area knife show, which was up by Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mark said that there's like a new show, pretty local to them right now in the Bay Area. Like it just started or something.
The Recon one?
No,
that's in Anaheim.
Yeah, I've heard it's the Bacchus show or something. They're trying to get back together.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
I don't know, but there's too many shows during that time of the year, and like we have no shows for about 3 to 4 months between Vegas and Blade.
Yeah,
you know, some stuff to then.
Week after week. Yeah.
So what did you do? So before we get to 2010, during this whole time you're doing the Fishtail, you're doing these collaboration products, you're doing the Boker, you're doing the Kershaw, and you're still custom making this whole time.
Well, actually, for a lot of this time, I was forging.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to just bring up because
okay, you
showed me an old piece back at that same show when I started asking you questions, because I bought 2 fires that first show, a black one and the Saturn. And then you started showing me all your forging stuff, and this is when I first started understanding customs. You just blew my mind. You showed me some stuff that you submitted, because you weren't just like a forger. You were an ABS. You weren't a master smith or a journeyman.
I got journeyman. Never.
Like no one ever knows, because you never talk about this.
I gotta admit, I was pretty surprised when I found out. I was like, what?
And to break down, journeyman's like 3rd tier, right? Out of like 4 tiers.
Yeah. Back in
almost
like 2000, I went to Washington, Arkansas, to the school there. They had the forging school. And so I spent a week. The first time was both of them were Damascus classes, and the second one was with Bill Moran.
Shit.
Yeah, spent a week with him. It was kind of funny because I'd already been forging like 3 years, and I had gotten into mosaics and was, we were even doing some powder stuff by then.
Oh, wow.
And so the first day I had like 7 billets laid up, and I was doing basically going for an intricate basket weave. And Bill's like, oh, you better slow down, because there's some people here who haven't even got their billets stuck together.
You're just like, that's their problem.
Yeah, you're like, I'm blowing past this shit.
So I helped people out for the rest of the week. It was a good experience. And I have a lot of friends a lot of really close friends that are mosaic blacksmiths and Damascus makers. And
now, you showed me a knife back then. I think it was the one you submitted for your journeyman. It was essentially about an 8-inch Bowie. I forgot what the handle material was. The blade was some crazy Damascus you made. Yeah. But what really I liked about the knife was the sheath. It's not even the sheath technically a scabbard. Because he made a scabbard. Yeah, he made a 1-piece Mokome scabbard, but not standard Mokome. It was made out of nickel and sterling silver.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
Nickel and pure silver.
Oh, pure silver, and Yeah, so you see like a bluish silver and then like a white silver color because the nickel and the silver.
Yeah.
And that was essentially the
925
scabbard for the
silver.
sheath. And that was the first time I actually seen like a modern scabbard. I didn't know at that time people were still doing that. But that was an insane build.
Yeah, I was really kind of into the silversmithing side of it.
Of course, you're Jewish.
And definitely into the historic antebellum period buoys of the basically deep south.
Very specific time
That's
period.
like really interesting to me right now for some reason. Yeah.
So, and it all goes back to a lot of people don't even realize this, but America's original custom knife makers. And there's only a handful of them. We're talking 1830s, 1840s.
Yeah.
They were basically you couldn't survive as a knife maker. They were basically medical instrument makers or silversmiths.
Kind of like a jack of all trades.
Well, they had to be able to harden steel and also do all the handle work. And so there's groups. They were grouped in different areas. New York had some. Boston had some. Natchez and Mississippi catered a lot. And then there was a handful group over in the Gold Rush area in California. The Michael Price's and Will and Fink stuff. So I did a lot of Michael Price stuff. Ring dagger. I did one Bradford dagger. I don't know if you know the Michael Price take apart knife, where it's a silver framed handle, and then the center parts have like it's a coffin shape or dog bone shape, pretty much, and then it's got studs, kind of in a diamondish pattern. Very famous old knife.
I'm not familiar with it, but I could kind of picture what you're talking about.
That name sounds like oddly familiar.
Michael Price is one of the most famous knife makers of this period. And he was in San Francisco.
I'm sure you're familiar with Skagel, right?
Skagel. Yeah, and that's like 2 generations later.
Yeah, this is way
after
later.
These guys.
He was in the 20s.
Oh yeah, Skagel was like he kind of was around in like the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
And all of us started to know this
leading into
similar podcast.
Yeah, like a lot of people consider him to be like the father of modern knife making in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Damn it. Matt, I can't find that freaking Mokame silver.
It's on my Instagram page.
Really?
I'm like Googling all sorts of shit trying to find it.
Matt, do you have a large collection of stuff that you forged? Like, do you keep this stuff or
no?
Oh.
I was just gonna say, like, where can people find pictures?
Yeah, my Instagram page, like all the bottom half pictures or older stuff.
Yeah,
there's 80 posts. Shouldn't be too hard to find.
So you were forging for a while then.
Oh yeah, and I did really focusing on that for a long time. Basically, while the V&Ds were happening, I wasn't making a lot of custom knives unless it was a carbon steel buoy or Damascus. Yeah.
So you were trying to get a master smith, or you were this was just intensely you were passionate about the process?
It was the idea at one point. I kind of saw the value of it diminish.
Okay.
The process to build the 5 knives, I mean, at this point would take me a lot of effort.
I just found it on your Instagram, but that's not the knife. You had it was like your dog bone knife, but the sheath was that nickel silver sheath, but it was more like a raindrop pattern. The one on your Instagram is like a dagger with the nickel silver sheath, a Michael Price style.
Yeah, that's the Michael Price dagger. It should be up there.
And what we're talking about now, I'll post this later in the Bladeology Instagram so people could follow up with this and see some of your older work.
Yeah. I'm just looking. So yeah, the Bradford daggers there. The one, maybe it's not.
The one
You know
piece
which one
that
I'm
really
talking about.
jumps
You
out
had,
to
it was a
me,
proper Bowie, but like
Yeah,
it was
it
like a
was a dog
raindrop
bone.
Damascus.
It was a dog bone.
Hmm.
the one piece that like really jumps out to me on your page is the Michael Price style dual ring guard dagger.
Yep.
That one's pretty
And
incredible.
Jared, if you want to see,
Ring
I
dagger.
just posted it in the group, and you'll see it.
So that ring dagger was mokume on the scabbard, and then
Yeah, I see that.
there's a dog bone. So I did 3 of the dog bones, and the one you see the picture right after the.
Yeah, it
Bradford
has a
one.
crazy scabbard on that one too, but it's not
So
the
that's
one.
mokume on the throat and the button, but it's argentium silver throughout the whole sheath.
Wait, what's Argentia? Like I know, so starting silver is 95%.
Yeah,
What's Argentium?
it's a form of silver. I can't remember what the alloying element is, but it doesn't tarnish as bad. Kind of tricky to work with soldering it. So yeah, and there's some pictures of some of the corkscrew stuff I used to do.
Now, are those sheets lined some kind of way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they would be. I did different stuff throughout.
Do they have like sheepskin in the top there,
the
like
throat,
oil blade or something?
I put
Yeah,
like
that's
a felt,
Like dick skin.
But I would line them with that PTFE Teflon.
Oh, okay,
All
right.
right.
So it gets it kind of tight in there, and it won't slip out.
That's what everybody wants. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you see the corkscrew knife above it? With it's got kind of a crazy Damascus pattern. It's 2 above the Bradford one.
Yeah, I didn't. What was I've seen those pop up from time to time on Arizona in the past. What was just another classical form?
It was basically had to do with that show in Paris.
Okay.
So I would bring 1 or 2 every year. Did that for several years.
This is the Feeks show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no. Back then it was just CCAC.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So okay, how long? When did you start going to that? Like during the forging period?
Yeah, no. I've been there 16 years. I think.
Oh wow.
All
So
except for 1 year.
You've known Yvonne for quite a while.
I have.
Yeah. Well, he's a good dude.
Through good and
I mean,
bad.
no. I guess they drink a lot of wine, so I mean that's good to have a core. I mean, there must be people interested in that.
Yeah.
The people's biggest complaint to that show is it used to be the fanciest show in Europe. It was at the top of this really nice hotel, and they would have a dinner the night before, and basically it kept going. The setting of it kept getting
so
lower.
Basically TKI.
Yeah, well now it's in a basement, like the shitty area of town, but
basically TKI.
It's still pretty awesome. I mean, last year wasn't too
full
bad.
of people, and it works. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I have yet to go to the Feeks show because when I was with Markham and Tia, we kind of slept in that day and didn't have a chance to get over there. But
is it during the same time as CCAC?
Yeah, it's the same weekend. But it's kind of like taking over from the fancy side.
Yeah, I did that one for 3 years in a row, and it's the best show location.
Yeah, so it's got those skylights. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all natural lighting in this.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
That's incredible. Yeah.
A glass terrarium.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out this year for sure.
And you're doing the Feeks this year?
No, I'm just doing CCAC. They put them right on top of each other this year.
Yeah, for some reason, why are they the same?
Days.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So last year I was able to do both. I did 1 day at one and 2 days at the other. But got to pick this time.
So you brought a lot of forged corkscrew knives to Paris over the years. Then, if you want to find one, that's probably a good place to look. Yeah,
a lot of them are in Europe. A lot of them are actually with one collector over there.
Oh.
So yeah, I did the forging work, and
now do you still do some of that stuff? Because like I see on your Instagram, and at least in 2016, you had a naval B2, now B1.
I do. I still
have it.
I still have 1B.
You
It's in
suck.
storage.
You suck even more if it's in storage. God.
I have an incredible forging shop. I got a rolling mill.
You have a rolling mill and a forging press you want to sell?
I got this press that I built. That's my favorite press I've ever used.
How many tons? Because I want a 50-ton.
Oh, it's at least it's back down. It's at least 100 tons.
God. So what? Are you running like 10 horse motors on there? I guess.
Yeah, 2 5s.
2 5s can still get you 100 tons.
Yeah, it has to do with your die size. A lot of that.
Well, a die and a piston, but you still need a certain, like, from what my reading, you still need a certain motor to run the certain pistons, and then you have to do the math of the hydraulics. Like the one that I planned on building ended up being with the 5 horsepower motor that I had plus the 2 pistons was like 48 tons or something.
Yeah, and your pump. So I don't go for the fast high speed pump.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's one pump that gives you like fast and then it kicks over to low. So I just got low setting, and I don't have a lot of throw on the piston. I don't have a lot of travel. 6 inches.
That's plenty.
Yeah, and if I need to
For
lower it, I just
Damascus.
I've got plates underneath. I just take away if I need more room. But I haven't lit the forge up there in 4 years, maybe longer.
That's
It's
not
full
that
of
bad.
It's full of sheets of carbon fiber.
Okay.
So
How big is this forge?
That's a nice interlude from talking about forging to the inevitable fibersmith period. You were forging forever. You still have all the forging gear. You say you're never going to forge again. I'm sure you are.
No. I just found a new piece of property, and my plan is to expand and be able to forge some more.
Oh,
You need to get that master smith.
Yeah,
I don't know
I'll
about
take
that.
that rolling mill off your hands if you don't need it.
No,
I think it
Those are
sounds
so
like the
hard to-
Master Smith
those are
is
so
the
hard to
title
find.
at this point.
this was a real good one. I bought it, but it's got outboard rollers.
Yeah, they're just so hard to find. There's one guy who makes them like South America or South Africa or something like that.
Yeah.
When I was looking, I read that ideally I'd like a 50-ton forging press and rolling mill.
Yeah. So my rolling mill's hydraulic, and up and down, and the rolls. So I just run it off the same 10 horsepower power unit that my press runs off.
Oh, that's cool. They
Just
can run together.
Yeah, it's just linked together. I can't really run them both at the same time, but
Because like I forged Damascus on a 50. I think 50-ton power hammer, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. Doing it for the stainless Damascus at least.
yeah,
The impact puts a lot of cracks in it. But like I did a 25-ton, like one of those Uncle Al's, and for the titanium it worked great. But the stainless steel Damascus, it's not the best. You're barely moving it, and then you can't really get a deep pattern into it.
Yeah.
So I figured if I'm buying it for like cry once, buy once, because a 50 tons is like 2 times the cost, a little more actually than 2 times the cost.
Yeah.
And the Uncle Al's is like $3,500, which is a great price.
Honestly, if you can weld, there's nothing better than building it yourself because you know how to fix it when you break it.
That was the plan at one point, but being in New York, none of the scrapyards would let you in to like scavenge them to get stuff.
Or if you're really
safety
cool,
reasons.
you could just do away with the press and just use that hammer.
Yeah, there you go.
Won't
Just
work.
use a hammer and go by hand. I'm curious, are there any master smiths that have actually done that?
Well, carbon, well, plenty of people do it, but stainless steel, you're not gonna be able to move it because I
don't know if you
different.
can get it to weld even.
No,
there any,
I met
working-
guys who've done it with carbon.
No, but
Yeah.
when stainless, I don't know.
Oh no, yeah, you won't get it to weld.
No.
'Cause
Totally different.
It doesn't
world,
weld till it's deformed quite a bit.
Are there any like working master smith makers that have actually got their master smith by just hand forging?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually, there's a couple friends of mine, like a guy named Christoph Derringer,
Oh.
who's just a master with a hammer. I got a knife of his that's made from like a 3/4 inch ball, like a pinball ball,
Uh-huh.
and he stretches it out. It's got a hidden tang with a forged butt cap, forged bolster,
All by hand with a hammer. That's
all by hand
incredible.
with a hammer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Wow.
nuts.
I met guys who
Yeah.
make knives quicker with by hand than with a power
Yeah.
hammer. Like I met guys who who could hand forge a knife quicker than I can with a power hammer. That's for sure.
I mean, I think that's
I talked about forging a knife.
We've talked about that before, though. I mean, there are some processes that, like, there are still guys today who just do prototyping quicker by hand. I mean, that's
So a lot of guys like Adam DeRozier.
Oh yeah, him and his wife Haley. Yeah.
And he's forging full, guards and stuff.
Yeah, even last year, like at Blade Show, going to Blade Show and seeing all the posts from makers leading up to the show. The one thing that I wanted the most was one of either his or his wife Haley's pieces. For some reason, I don't know. That seems like true knife making right there.
It really
it's like intrinsically amazing when somebody forges something.
Yeah, and she did that keyhole integral with a piece of carbon fiber, which I still don't know how that's even possible. But
you get it close and you press it. That's how they do it. Press it in
without it shattering, though. That's crazy.
It won't shatter. You're gonna press out the steel, like I mentioned to you the other day. With wood, it's easier because you will actually broach it.
Yeah, you cut it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Wait, Matt, you're the one who actually explained this to me. I just remember.
What's that?
How keyholes work.
Yeah.
You explained to me that with the wood, you actually broach it to fit. The carbon fiber is a lot harder because you have to get it to press fit.
But the edge is basically a cutting edge that you're pressing it into.
It's like a 90-degree angle.
90-degree cutting edge.
When I found out about that, how those are made, I was like, "What? That's crazy."
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just pressed in and cut.
Yeah,
that all goes back to a guy named Rodrigo from Brazil, Safredi.
So a keyhole integral is a pretty modern invention?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
Huh.
It's the first one I know that was doing
I don't know. It seems like they would make them in the past for same reasons they made Damascus, to where it saved on material. Like you could do they would have the hidden tang that would save on material, but that seems just as viable.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not a modern invention, but all of this stuff
kind of like
it just goes around. It's cyclical. At one point, it disappears and it comes back, and we see that.
There's been armors since the beginning of mankind.
People have always needed to not get poached through their skin.
Yeah, somebody has to discover that Valyrian steel method.
You need something to kill people with.
So did you ever? Because I know this was when I was in when you were in Vegas this last time. I was talking to a knife maker, Rick Lala, and you came up and I had not known, but did you ever spend time in Brazil, Matt?
I did. I did.
Of course.
I'm not sure I can talk about it here.
Okay. That's
fair. Okay.
But
I was about to say, I'm like, Matt,
you're a well-traveled knife maker, spending time with makers all over the world. Is that
true, Mr. Worldwide?
This was before really knives.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Back when I was chasing other endeavors.
I gotcha.
Other physical pursuits.
I'm thinking, man. I'm like, I don't think these stories will come out right now.
So you're forging full time. On the side, you've got the collaboration with Boker and Kershaw. You're rolling out. Now, during your forging years, did you visit other forgers in the U.S. that we might recognize, other than the people you've already mentioned, of course?
Actually. So after Blade Show, I would go down and spend a couple days with a guy named Steve Schwarzer. He's one of the beginning founders of Mosaic Damascus.
Oh wow!
Okay. A character Damascus, which is what I was really into. Which was actually cutting out. I would cut out characters in different sheets, stack them together, and fill it in a box. Fill it with powder around the outside.
And you're talking about like actual recognizable images. Like my closest thing I can think of is an Eggerling pattern where he's got like skulls in it and stuff. Is that about what we're talking about?
Pretty much.
Okay.
There was some real cartoony stuff came out of it. God, I wish I had a picture of that Grateful Dead knife.
That's neat.
That'd be cool.
So I did a full Damascus V&D.
Oh wow!
I wonder if it's in Blade Gallery. Let's see here.
Sometimes you can find some pretty cool gems, like hidden gems on Blade Gallery.
So yeah, the problem is you have to like go to the section where not current makers are.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you go there, if you have a chance.
Listeners at home, check this out.
Yes.
Yeah. Blade Gallery.
He's got a lot of my old knives on there.
Hmm.
I'm actually trying to get there.
You know what? While you're trying to find that brings up a point I've talked about before. It's just such a bummer that a lot of these knives just disappear into collections and we'll never see them again. It's unfortunate we don't have like a service in the industry to like record one-off customs or such, because they they completely disappear, you know?
It's known as Instagram.
Yeah, like catalog collections.
I mean, like something forever that's not Instagram, that's like desktop based, you know,
well, it'd be really
cataloging service.
Yeah,
still
to like
Instagram.
No, to like go by dealer and then go by maker and then collector and then who has what, you know, like a catalog. That'd be cool.
Like a dealer collaboration might be good, where everyone just donates their pictures of the knives to like a website that will hold it, you know.
Yeah,
on
custom
a server.
knife catalog or something. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Really nice. It was actually an issue for me because I would spend weeks making one knife, you know, and then finally sell it. And the money all became relative. You know, all I was left with was a picture.
Right.
And so I was kind of torn. It's like, God, I go through this whole craft and the money's long gone. And all you really got to show for it's just a memory. I mean, I guess it's kind of whining, but
no,
that's why instead of
it's
making
totally
one,
legitimate.
you make two.
Yeah, but I mean,
or a few hundred.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, some of that stuff is just you can't repeat the magic in making that one knife the first time. And
I
no,
honestly
you're
don't
right. That's
see-
it.
Yeah,
It's gone.
That's the problem being a maker and a collector and enjoying what you do, because you make everything's a one-off. Like every custom folder making the same model, but they're all one-offs. There's this once in a while you get that one. It's like crap. I kind of want to keep this one, but then again, there's bills.
Yeah, but even then, if you keep it, the rest of us don't get to see it, so it nullifies my point. Like I'm saying, like if you make something and it's amazing, there's no good in any of that if no one ever sees it. I mean, there's a certain beauty in it.
I just want
there's a cute certain beauty into it, but I mean, otherwise, the collective unconscious does not get to enjoy your creation, which is the ultimate. Like that's why Instagram is so popular, is because makers can get feedback. They can get that emotional connection with the piece they make through the likes. You know, if that's what you want.
You know, I'm sure most people would find it preposterous, but I don't think the notion of making a knife like over the span of a couple of years is that crazy. You know, to put that much work into a piece. I mean, yeah, you'd have to sell it for quite a bit, but it'd still be pretty cool.
Yeah, and then even then, it's all relative. Like, who cares what the money is at that point?
I forgot the knife's name.
Your time is gone.
Matt, you know what I'm talking about. 3 years ago at Nick's, the one with the 120 hours of just engraving work, the sword. Right by the doors on the right side, next to Blade Treasury.
Yeah, something like that. It's like, oh my god, like somebody put, you know, their soul into this piece.
Yeah, him and his daughter, or him and his wife. He pretty much so. It was a 75-pound chunk of 154 cm. You know who I'm talking about. He took that 75-pound chunk of 154 and made the short sword out of it. So it ended up being like a 4-pound sword, but it had a guard that was about 6 inches wide. So you have to cut away all that material to get to the blade.
Exactly.
So he didn't start as a casting. He started as a giant 75-pound billet and removed 71 pounds of it. And then his wife or his daughter put in about 120 hours in just engraving into that thing. And then it was, and they came in this giant like wooden case that was like velvet or leather lined. That's pretty much like Elijah, what you said. Like that's a long-term project.
Well, Matt, what's the longest you have on a knife?
Oh God, I don't know.
Well, he has some that are going on 10 years at this point.
Wow. I have some orders. Some orders that have gone that long. Actually, working on it, it's probably a month.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure which one it is.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So if you can actually find Blade Gallery, I just searched Blade Gallery Diskin.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of the old stuff. It's got the one Nick was talking about.
So you made a Damascus V&D while you were at the shop, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up, the early custom stuff.
Okay.
From then, after the Amsterdam, the fire came about, and I did quite a few of those, a few hundred, over a period of probably 5 years.
And that was a scale release, just like the Amsterdam.
No, it's the fire, so it's shaped. I don't know. It's kind of Sebenza-ish.
Yeah, the form, but the mechanics are similar, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, similar. Different actuator. Exact same sear. It was an overlay instead of a full scale.
That's right. Yeah, it rode on top of the tie.
On top. It stopped. The over travel was stopped on the pivot pin, whereas in the Amsterdam it stopped on the internal screw. So the spring pressures on the triggers are all over pressured and separated out. The handle moves separate from the actual sear. So the sear is the one that holds the spring back.
Right.
If you have them all attached to each other, when you go and close the blade and recock the spring, that sear has to recock as well. So it's going to move back to get out of the way and then move into place to lock the spring. So if it's got a handle attached to it, that handle has to move as well.
Gotcha.
So by separating those out, you can close the spring and relock the spring, and the handle doesn't jump on you.
Yeah, so you can still be squeezing the knife, and then when you reload it, so to say, it doesn't pop in your hand.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So all the springs are overloaded, and then they have certain stops that it stops on. The handle, if you didn't have on the fire, if you didn't have the pivot pin in, the handle would over rotate. Okay, so everything's preloaded, and that way it prevents from getting sloppy over time, and you can properly time everything so the pressures are all the same.
I mean, these knives fire hard too. I mean, I've fired a fire and an Amsterdam, and they both. I mean, they are very enjoyable switchblades to actuate.
Thank you. And a lot of it has with the fire and the Revolution had to do with going to bearings.
Okay.
A lot less resistance on the blade, so it makes it fire really hard.
Yeah, and you won't make me. Like the only knife I really want right now is a fire, and I know you have parts for 3 of them, and you just don't want to make it.
Don't tell anybody that. Top secret information.
I've heard about
fires are all gone. They're all
for
gone.
4 years. She's like, "Oh, I have parts for 3 more, but I don't want to make it." I'm like, "You asshole!"
I had one come back last week that the lock insert had cracked.
God damn!
Basically, along where the detent ball is hammered in,
so
I had to replace the lock insert. But I had to reteach myself. It had been so long. I had to figure out how to assemble those things again.
Oh wow!
It changes, and they're all kind of different.
Yeah, because those knives are, like Elijah was saying, those are swatches. Like over the years, at least in my tenure, and I know I've asked Josh about it, I don't think I've ever seen
the Amsterdam. Yeah,
I've never seen an Amsterdam return. I can't put my
yeah.
finger
And we
on
told
it.
that to Nick. He's like, "Oh, challenge accepted. I want to dry fire this thing until it breaks."
Yeah, I mean, if you try to break it, sure, but honestly, I've never had a customer come back and go, "Hey, this just broke because I was using it."
They're kind of bulletproof.
I can't remember.
I get it where they've sheared the screw off like Nick did, and I'll send them a bag full of screws.
That is pretty cool though. That the fail-safe is just a screw.
He's lying. I didn't get a bag full of screws. I had to retap my entire knife.
Well, you didn't.
That was a challenge.
See, my challenge was I made it stronger. I retapped it.
So yeah, it sort of has been an improvement all the way along too. I think the Revolution is more durable than the Fire even would be.
I know mine fires hard.
So the
Yeah,
Revolution is the scale release, which is very confusing because it's called the Revolution and the wheel is called
the wheel. The wheel was the one with the actual wheel.
Right.
So it's all based
Well,
on
it's
the
a
same...
revolutionary mechanism. Is what
Yeah.
the thing is.
I wanted to kind of keep it within the wheel theme because they were all going to be wheels initially. But I was never really happy with the trigger.
On the wheel?
Yeah, and in the beginning, I had to lighten them up so far so people could fire them.
Yeah, because I remember you brought the first. No, he brought the first show. He brought them to. They were a bit hard. Like even for me, with like having a calloused finger. Yeah, I was like, these are.
Yeah, so I was like, this isn't going to go very far.
No, the ones you were doing lately, like those are good.
Yeah,
the first ones, and you even say, I'm like, yeah, they're hard. I'm like, because I'm a maker with calloused fingers. I was like, I could barely do this. Some guys are gonna be like, just gonna pick it up and not figure it out and just put it down.
I had to French the fuck out of them.
French them up a bit.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, with the V&Ds in the beginning, I spent years teaching Frenchmen how to fire a double action auto. They're soft hands.
Like you literally just slide this to the side.
I mean, I spend hours teaching people on the phone how to fire a Spyderco Vallotton. Like they're just like, I don't understand, and I'm like, I don't know how else to tell you this.
They're just not
that panel move. Well, no, because they don't think the panel can move because there's a screw through it.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh no, it doesn't move.
What makes it work.
And I'm like, no, that's just trust me, please, just trust me, it works.
Push here.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Yeah, so Matt, essentially, I want to build one similar to that Vallotton, where it'd be a frame lock with a little slide. That's kind of what I want to build, and instead of having a second scale on the bottom, everything will be on the inside of the frame. And I'll probably use a slitting saw to break the wall in between the two pockets.
Yeah, I'd do them as a frame lock too.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I was gonna set up a frame lock because I haven't really seen frame lock versions.
Yeah, no.
A frame lock dual action.
Yeah,
and that way you can do it like what I'm doing with the Revolution and the wheels. I'm milling all these bosses on the inside of the handle, and so my sear is not riding on screws or anything. It rides on these internal bosses that are milled into the frame lock.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like these because those screws have to be custom made for the slide, but you could make little bosses because on that mechanism it's pretty much a spring wire that's bent. And you have the little bosses. You might still need one screw, I think, but I think that one could be substituted with a properly pocketed hole for just a normal flathead screw.
Yep.
For where the bolster goes. I think that one could be supplemented in the milling process.
So we're talking about these mechanisms and how to manufacture them and build them, and that sort of leads into something I had wanted to bring up later. But I mean, Matt, you kind of sort of softly mentioned it in the beginning, but this knowledge, I mean, do you feel like this knowledge is like part of like knife making? I mean, these are special techniques taught to one maker to another, but I mean, how many people, if any, have you taught the ways of the dual action to? I mean, not just explain them at Blade Show, but I mean, properly taught them.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Ways of the steel.
So I recommended those who are interested to buy in Amsterdam, take it apart.
Yeah, that's what you told me 2 years ago. And then you go home, go buy one, and then call me when you have questions. Yeah. Except he didn't tell me they're sold out everywhere and discontinued.
You have to.
So it took me about 2 years to find one, and then he answered my questions. It's an asshole.
So I mean,
but I'm certainly not here to hold anything back from anyone that's genuinely interested.
Okay.
But
I mean, you've never had an apprentice, essentially.
No.
Okay.
Not really. No.
Nick, where you at? Come on.
I'd be happy.
Well, I have a business to run. I would love to.
A lot of this day this day and age is just programming.
Right. Yeah, well,
figuring it out.
Well, I have a CNC now. If I had like a CAD file, I already figured it out. When I took apart the Amsterdam, that first moment, I figured it out. Except the only problem was your sear is the bent one. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to get that made by a sheet metal shop, And
They're
then
actually pretty easy to make if you're just making one of them.
Well, yeah, if you're making one, it's easy. You could get laser cut
Nick's
and
talking
bend
about
it.
making 7. Okay, that's different.
Or
Well,
7.
Add
even
like a
7
0.
would be difficult, but and then from there you go to a stamping shop if you need to make 10,000 of them.
Yeah,
Right.
and I actually know one here, pretty much right where I get my steel from.
Yeah.
But that's one way to do it. But that works better for a line lock. For that frame lock one that I want to build, it'd have to pretty much be a Pac-Man sear.
No, I use it. It's wide enough for a frame lock.
Yeah, but then you have to cage it on both sides. You're doing it as a bolster lock, so at least the scale covers it.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's riding on the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Internal bosses.
Yeah, but like if you've seen like one of the Spider Vallotton, right?
What's that?
The Spider Vallotton.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know that one.
So essentially, everything is solid except that little half-inch slide. So I want to be able just a titanium frame lock, and all that's on there is that little half-inch slide out of various materials.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
the whole mech is just under the show side scale.
There's dual action frame locks out there to look at.
Yeah, for sure. And isn't the what's that Buck one?
There's that one.
That
one has
you just had one of those,
liner lock.
The liner on the other side.
Yeah, that's a neat little knife.
Yeah, it's kind of defeats the purpose.
It's not concealed though. It's the thing. It's a button.
It's not very secretive.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
cool.
not. No. But I mean, it's not designed to be. It's designed to be user friendly. That's it's not meant to be a concealed. Well, because a lot of the things is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt, but a lot of the knives that Butch was making, and a lot of these early makers were making, perhaps like Bill McHenry or whoever, they were making dual actions because of switchblade laws being the way they are. They were concealed release dual actions. They weren't like, look at my knife and how cool it is. It was like, hey, I have a fucking switchblade and nobody knows but me. Is that incorrect?
Played a huge factor in it.
Yeah.
Wow. Side note, my mind is blown. Schrade makes an $18 dual action. Just saying. Just found it. Ordering one.
Well, the V&D was knocked off. So you used to be able to get those for $9.
As a dual action? Like a working dual action?
Yeah, dude. V&Ds were like...
G-Tech.
It's all stamped out probably, yeah.
G-Force, I think they were called.
G4. I'm Googling that.
It was one of the better sellers for a while. They did them in wood handles before we did. Yeah, they had it knocked off pretty early.
I found it. It's called on eBay. It's called G-Force Auto Trick Knife. Fun with reverse belt clip.
I love.
You gotta have that reverse belt clip, dude. If it doesn't have the reverse belt clip, then I don't want it.
We Butch and I met with Tony. I am kind of proud to say that I'm the one who kind of brought them back together.
Oh, okay.
Wow. They kind of had some issues after Tony did the Chameleon,
right?
Which was he did 2 versions of it at 2 different periods.
Mm-hmm.
So initially he did the Chameleons, and then they kind of had a falling out, and then we kind of got back together, and at one point Microtech was going to do the V&D or a similar shape of it. And as soon as Tony released that he was going to do it, it got knocked off. We weren't big enough to get knocked off by any means at that point. So that's how the G-Force came about. And they must have sold millions because it went on for 20 years and they're still selling them.
Oh, wow. Okay. I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah.
So was that during the MSG or the MTX period? MTX3?
The Chameleon was before it.
Okay.
Then he did the MTX, is it called? There was 2 of them. 2 of them that were actual bolster release.
The Chameleon, that was in the 90s, right?
Yeah, and that was
that's real early.
Was on the clip.
Yeah, that was a clip release.
Clip
that
release
was
on the clip.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually one of Butch's. Butch had a production that they were doing in his shop with his kids. They did hundreds of them.
Yeah, I remember seeing. Yeah, you could get custom Chameleons from Butch.
Custom Chameleons, and then Timberline ended up taking that shape and running with that for a while. And then Tony did a second iteration of the Chameleon later on, maybe 10 years later.
Was that a panel release?
No, it was under the clip as well.
It was a clip again. Okay.
Yeah, and there were some sear issues.
Some issues with that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them came back, and you had to fix them.
I mean, the knives that were, the knives that Matt makes, or the knives that we're talking about, are certainly some of the hardest to make properly out there, and probably hardest to make in general because of the amount of hand fitting, tuning, pressure, time, like sitting closed forever and then getting fired once in a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the chameleon had problems.
And people tend to use them pretty much until they break.
Yeah, people sit around with switchblades and fire them until they explode.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely didn't take
until they fire the spring into
their
chest.
Yeah. So you were able to get Tony and Butch back together though, or on speaking terms.
Yeah, and now they're on friendly terms. Butch has always really respected Tony a lot for what he's done, and me as well.
That's awesome.
He's been a really good friend to me, and I have nothing but respect for him. Even with all the conflicts that I've been in the middle of between Kershaw and Microtech, and tried to stay neutral and be positive with all sides.
Yeah, there you go.
The Matrix.
Yeah, let's get into a neutral discussion on that topic.
Maybe
not.
Go there.
Yeah, maybe not.
So, when did you? That's a good one though. I mean, when did you meet Tony? When did you cross paths at a show as fellow makers, or?
It was early on there. The first time I met him was a show in Eugene.
Oh wow!
So the Eugene show used to be really spectacular. They had booths with all the production companies. It was kind of like the automatic show of the year. And everyone would come who made autos, from McHenry on down. Even Mel Pardue, first place I met him, he was making these solid Damascus inlaid push button autos.
Yep, I'm familiar with those.
Yeah. So it was a great time. That was kind of my introduction. That was my first table, was at that show with Fishtail daggers. And Tony was there the first 3 or 4 that I went to. And this is pre-Halo. This is pre-OTF, anything.
These were like mini UMSs or pre that?
Yeah. It was UMS. Then Halo 1s was probably, he showed up with, I think, the 2nd or 3rd year that I was there. That was the big one, the big super powered.
Right.
The Kydex sheath.
I mean, that must have been hyper tactical for the time, like a giant, for that time, rather large single action OTF.
They wasn't a double action. It was a single action charge handle. The Halo 1.
Halo 1? Wow.
CFO? No, this was, you're saying this was,
before all the Halos. This was the very first one.
Okay.
And as far as I know, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Tony got the idea from Butch's Viper, because the Viper preceded any of the single action out the fronts. And the Viper was a smaller version, little squatter, and had the charging handle that pulled from the back bolster to recharge it.
We came across the Viper 2 years ago, which was the first time I had seen it, and we had it in the shop and we played around with it. I did not realize the dates were so. I mean, it must have been close. Anyway,
it was really close, and I mean, strangely enough, I have this memory of being down there at Butch's shop after the show with Tony and Grant and Gavin. Gavin was maybe 12 years old.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Ken Onion was there.
Man, heavy hitters.
Ken Onion was showing us his speed safe mechanism.
Wow, that's incredible.
At that time, yeah. Really, I mean, thinking back on it, it's such an incredible moment in history. As far
yeah,
as,
like it.
No
yeah,
kidding.
it's like the precipice of modern. Yeah, like folders.
You know, and there I am as a kid at that point. You know.
And so what was Butch? You guys were there to see Butch's stuff, or to see the speed safe?
He used to have a barbecue after the show on Monday.
That's awesome.
And there'd be gun, you know, automatic rifles and all kinds of stuff, fun stuff, shooting, little knife making, big barbecue.
Sounds like a fun time.
It was.
Question, Matt, about those Timberline Vallotton signature liner lock knives. Those are like just the Chinese production knife, right?
Yeah.
Like, what were those like sold for?
Maybe 40 retail.
Okay, I just bought one on eBay for $14. That was discontinued by TSA. I mean, that was taken away by TSA. It was TSA auction. Yeah, it's used, but
a TSA auction on eBay.
Yeah,
you're talking about one of the Timberline folders.
Yeah, it says all items are sold and received by TSA and need cleaning, oiling, and resharpening.
Right. That's hilarious.
These were confiscated through the confiscation program. It was $14, so I'm buying it.
It's got like a injection molded handle.
It looks like G10, like texture G10.
Oh,
I think it's molded.
Yeah.
I
remember those.
I'll know in about a week.
It's good though. I mean, for the price at the time, it was but yeah, definitely not a G10.
I'll know in a week.
So that's pretty gnarly. Like an after show barbecue, just everybody like hanging out, trading what would be history. I didn't realize that Grant and Gavin.
They showed up. They didn't really know anybody at the time. They had Grant had this giant mock-up of one of their knives. It was about maybe 18 inches when it was open, but it was one that had like the cam mechanism with a slider where you push on it and the whole blade flies open. But it was a giant mock-up of these cams working. Pretty cool. And so I've known Gavin a long time. Kind of seen him grow up. And
yeah, I think he mentioned that when we had dinner with him in Vegas. Yeah. I think he mentioned that.
It's like a little brother to me in a way. Which is pretty cool. Because he's one of the very few people that does have a lot of original ideas.
Yeah, like engineering ideas. Engineering, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like no one else I can think of that does what he does.
No, his knives are certainly unto himself.
You know, and he's influencing others. I would have to say that the morphing karambit, you know.
Some for sure.
Passed alive within what the Hawks were doing originally.
Yeah, without a doubt, probably.
You know,
I'm sure if you ask Joe, he'd probably admit to that.
Yeah. But you know, they were doing a lot of that cam extension stuff, and then they did that one where you hold the handle and it basically locks the blade in.
Oh yeah,
similar. So
like the beetle or the turtle?
The beetle. Yeah, I had one of those.
The beetle, yeah.
That's what I was collecting. I was like, oh, this is New York legal. I'll get one of these.
Right, yeah. New York legal.
But then the problem with that knife was because the whole knife worked in a urethane O-ring. So if you stored it in the closed position for too long, the O-ring would wear out.
Yeah.
So it just no retention.
Unless they've made those themselves. The injection.
Yeah, the injection. And then that became a big issue when he made a post. And if you throw it in, it was like you have to throw it in the oven for like at 275 or 300 for like a half hour. And the spring will go back to its memory. The O-ring will go back to its memory, and that worked. But like I didn't touch it for like a year and then I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is like a limp dick. It doesn't even. It kind of like tilts downwards a little bit.
Here's the fix: throw it in the oven.
Yeah, it wasn't vulcanized.
I mean, hey, you know, if it works, it works.
It'll be vulcanized. It's rubber.
Quick at home, get it done.
I think one thing we should talk about is basically the history of switchblades.
Okay.
The time period of like
for sure.
Turn of the century on up. So there was really two main schools. You got to call them schools because they had students and they were definite teachers, and that, Butch was on the West Coast, and he taught many people, including Bill and myself, his kids. And on the other end was Bill McHenry.
Right.
And he led that definitely like a school. He would have his friends come in, and they would stay with him and shoot the shit and learn, make switchblades together. And beyond that, there were just small patches. So you had guys like Charlie Dake down in Louisiana, Reese, definitely. And I'm talking like 2000 or mid 90s on up.
Right.
Small pockets. There was an old guy named Jim Martin who made little miniature switchblades really well, and a few people in between. But it was really sparse beyond that.
Yeah, it wasn't a popular thing.
No, and the whole East Coast side of it, the Bill McHenry side, they really got into the art knife stuff.
Yeah, so when Chuck was on, he was talking about that, talking a lot about art knife switchblades.
Yeah, so Bill was a goldsmith initially, and if you looked at all of his knives, they were highly, carved, not just engraved, but carved. He would carve figurines on the backspacer and faces. And you'll see that with some of the, like Stephen Olszewski. He was a jeweler. I think Chuck talked about him. He really took it even further, the carving side. But they all kind of worked in the same mechanism for the most part, which was that latch release. And they would really decorate the latch.
Richard Wright. That's why.
Richard Wright is another one. And they're all New Englanders for the most part. There was a guy named Bill Sandin who lived up in New Hampshire. John Richter, who is a Master Chief, ex-SEAL, who made them. Rick Hinder, as well, was in this group.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Made autos. And that was his group of friends for sure. Guy named Rex Robinson. So all these names that you guys are hearing, but they're all gone.
Yeah.
Nobody's heard of them because they basically backed themselves into this corner where they were decorating their knives to such a level that they were in the 10 plus K range in sales, and then the whole market dried up.
Yeah.
It was, elderly art knife collectors that basically were soaking it all up. But it really disappeared, the market, as with many of these makers.
And now you're talking about so I mean there's also there's Osborne and Kaios in there somewhere, obviously. Yeah. And that's the same idea. They're super high end knives that just didn't have a place anymore. And
Warren and Joe weren't specifically focused on the autos.
Right. No, okay, that's fair. Okay.
And they did them exceptionally, There were other people like Jack Levin.
Okay.
I don't know if he was from Brooklyn. He was an awesome maker. Oh man, if you can find his stuff. It was medieval daggerish with latch, like a Hubertus latch release. Frame locks. Oh yeah.
Some extreme art knives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like high art. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I just came across a Hubertus latch release this morning in a box.
In a box, just laying around.
Yeah, we stopped. Yeah, they're around. So okay, so then what about the southern set with what about Rob? Where does he land in there?
Rob
Dalton.
He's been so reclusive the whole time.
Is that a black knife conversation that we won't have right now?
No.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Because Jeremiah always talks about Dalton.
We'll have that conversation at some point.
You gotta respect
the Simpsons did it first. Jeremiah always comes back at me with Dalton did it first. I'm like, God, I don't know.
Dalton did it first.
His whole business was based off knockoffs initially. He knocked off the Halo 1.
So you're saying that, and what I'm
Okay,
hearing
yeah,
is
see,
the opposite. On
So
Jeremiah's,
you're saying that Rob knocked off the Halo 1, not
Oh,
that
fuck yeah,
not
he
that
had
the
a black
Ranger came
version.
first.
The Rain.
I'm
No,
thinking.
this was right after Tony came out with the Halo 1. It was the exact
Okay.
same shape, exact same. I mean, it was shittier.
Okay, all right.
I think his first thing that he really came up with was the pull release single action out the front, where the tabs on the side of the blade, like Protec's done one like that.
Oh, the Border Patrol.
I don't know the names of his.
It was a Border Patrol or it was an ASP, but yeah, that's what you're. Yeah.
So you've got that. You've got his button lock work that he's done.
The side opening autos.
Yeah.
Oh, the Protex catalog.
But I've never met him. I don't know that of anybody who has.
Sure.
We tried to find him, and that didn't happen.
That didn't
really
go too well. Yeah.
In Lexington when we were there, we tried to see if that could work out, and yeah, it didn't happen. So.
So it's
very reclusive, I would say.
Very reclusive, and then the fact that he's been willing to just blatantly knock some stuff off. Never really gave him much credit.
All right, fair enough.
Except they were a good bargain. If you wanted a Microtech, there was usually a Dalton alternative.
There you go. Where do you stand on the development of the Black Knife then?
The Black Knife. Well, that goes back to Miller. Who was it? Miller and guys in Florida. I don't know the whole history of it. But yeah, they are the ones that invented a push button lock, as far as I know.
Yeah, coil fired side opening, push button release auto.
Wait, I missed that. Who did the push button?
His name was Miller. I don't know the whole history of it. I think they were from Florida. It was a team, and then Charlie Ox knew him, and then that's how he got
the Ox, yeah.
The whole
any relation to Eric Oaks by any chance?
Well,
I don't think so.
Maybe because Eric's dad was like a mastersmith, wasn't he?
Well, I heard that, but I don't know. I have to ask Eric because
this is one of those fun stories that I've heard a couple different sides of.
Yeah,
so I'll be interested.
It's like playing telephone almost.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, it's one of those.
They're so different. Those two.
The way that I hear the story is different, but then we'll have Reese on at some point, and I think that would be cool to have all of those sides of the stories.
Reese would know.
Are we doing Reese next?
Yeah, we will, but I want to talk about Matt now. But I mean, yeah,
definitely know the Black Knife.
He definitely he talks a lot about that early coil fired work.
How do I Google that? Do I just look up the Black Knife?
Good luck. There's like 50,000 different Blade Forums articles screaming about different people. But yeah,
it's the most talked about thing ever, pretty much.
But going back to what Matt started with the early Switchblade history and the makers. I mean, I think he was definitely, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's never been the popularity of a folding knife or a frame lock. It's always been,
like an alternative,
like the Terribles kind of thing.
Kind of. Well, I mean, they used to be fairly illegal.
Right.
Yeah, that's really been relaxed a lot. But when I first started, there were maybe 4 states I think you could own them in. And now
it's always been Rhode Island.
Now we're
right?
up like 30.
Yeah. All over the place.
Rhode Island staying strong.
Shout out to Knife Rights.
Yeah, right there you go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Shout out to Knife Rights.
Yeah, Doug Ritter.
Yeah, he's in there. He's in there killing it, man.
Single-handedly, pretty much. I mean, not entirely, but compared to the money that Acti has raised over the years, he's gotten so much more legislature through.
Oh no, Doug's great. See him at all the shows. Try to give him as much money as we can fling out there.
Yeah. So
how much interaction have you? I don't know where you're going with your Switchblade history, but I want to continue on that path. I found it quite interesting, but there's these different schools you were saying.
Yeah. So I came from the West Coast side,
right,
with Butch, and pretty much just learned double actions. Anything that Butch was teaching. There was also, well before I started, Mike Whiskers.
Right, Whiskers. Yeah, the Allen. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So he was in Texas, and he did basically a lockback that was double notched on the tang, so it would lock closed and open. And it was a scale release, single action. And so he taught quite a few Texans how to do those. So that was another small school of people that came out of there. Even I believe Johnny Stout has made one or two from the same area there.
Oh, is that right?
So I find it interesting that we had these regional areas that stuck to the same mechanisms and similar knives. And it only went for a certain period of time in history. And it's certainly not like that anymore.
Right.
There aren't, maybe with flippers, you can kind of see that where similar stuff, whether you're, near Tom Mayo, you're going to make Mayo-ish looking stuff, or, Jeremy Marsh, some of his students kind of, some of their stuff looks similar. So you can't help it.
Yeah, you're influenced by somebody.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always thought about, like, early on, should I kind of apprentice with somebody on design principles or not?
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, like, oh, well, my stuff's just going to look like their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a straight designer. You should be doing you should have your own stuff. When you're taught by someone and taught their processes,
just pick up their process,
Yeah, so that image just that design philosophy kind of stays in your head.
It's really hard. You've established definitely your own style, Elijah, and you're probably the most successful single designer. I mean, as far as someone who hasn't gone on to make knives.
Well, that's a rep to live up to.
Yeah, that's some serious.
You think about it. I mean,
I'm gonna call Leon, man.
Well,
Leon just got angry.
No, certainly on the production side, and
right.
Most recently, you didn't do all the collabs that Leon's done with custom makers, but
I tried.
You're touching different companies, and they're finding great success with what they're doing with you. And
hopefully it continues.
It's your own style, whereas you got a guy like JVO, his stuff. I think that's more generalized.
I think he has one of the most recognizable styles today because
it's a nice style, but I think a lot of his lines
because he sticks to the same concept of like a recurve Tanto.
Yeah.
I have definitely gotten a rut like that where I want to design just derivatives of the same design, which is very hard to shake, for sure.
It's hard to take those jumps to the left.
Yeah, really I've been in that rut for about 8 years now. Everything I design ends up being I want to grind like a Tanto, so I'll just make another Tanto, or vice versa with the Warncliffe.
Yeah, on the other hand, if you do that and you continue to do it, you're basically going to have the best version of that knife that you can make eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all you'll have.
That's true. Yeah,
that's all.
It just keeps developing.
The thing. I figured that out, but that's why I talked to you last week, where I'm like, can you design something else for me that I could make with my father? Because everything I make just turns to be a Tanto or a Warncliffe, which Warncliffes people think are a simple grind. If you want to grind a Warncliffe to be crisp and straight, it is not a simple grind. No. A simple grind is just a normal draw point hunter with a little bit of a high belly. That's a simple grind.
Yeah.
Just do the opposite from what you did previously. Like with the swayback. I was like, I wanted to design a swayback, so I did the pleroma. But, yeah. It's got a concept. Oh, a Tonto, like a clip point. Like a Bowie, That's kind of how I think about it. Just a certain blade shape or a style of knife, and then just go off that and just kind of make it your own.
Mm-hmm. And once you're stuck with your style, it definitely influences everything you end up doing.
Oh yeah, it's pretty much the rule book that you kind of have to follow.
So what's the current state of affairs, Matt, in your opinion? I mean, not of the market, but I mean, we're talking about these different schools of switchblade makers or whatever, but
I see
there just aren't as many of them.
Obviously, we've seen a lot of stagnation in frame lock flippers.
Right.
We don't even need to really get into that, but so there's going to be a need for something else, something new, something more. if everyone wants to survive making knives.
I mean, I definitely see a resurgence of autos. I see more things with springs in them all the time.
Yeah. And you see even a resurgence of forging these days.
Yeah. Right, the sole authorship piece.
Yeah. And
I think
it's going to take, maybe some new skills, some additional learning.
Well, CNC is the thing that's starting to step up where
a
lot of guys
more
now
are having access to that. And,
I think one thing that's kind of made like Ken Onion Speed Safe so popular is because the quote unquote casuals, non-knife people, when they get into knives, it's usually a lot of times through one of his designs, through Kershaw or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the mechanism is so simple. Like it's just an easy to actuate mechanism because they don't really care about the mech getting into it to start off with. So like they just want something that's easy to use.
And it feels like a switchblade.
And that was it. So like, I don't know. It seems like that was the main reason of that popularity of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to kind of come around full circle and be something similar eventually.
We've seen a lot higher educated consumer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They know about way more stuff than
There's so easy to get information these days, good and bad.
Well, and plus the community is more self-aware than I think it's ever been.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this what we're doing right now is a pretty good example of that, but
I'm saying that, as you mentioned, like he was part of schools, and back then, especially the forges were very guarded with their secrets.
Yeah.
That was another reason why people's knives started to look similar, is because your knives looked like the teacher who taught you. Because that's usually how you got into the hobby. There weren't really many people who just, I'm gonna look at a YouTube video and figure this out in my garage.
Yeah,
with the tools that I have.
Yeah, everything becomes a melting pot.
Yeah, even Matt, he was taken under the Vallotton's wing, and they showed him how to do things right. But now it's you could ask a maker and he'll tell you, or you could find the info online, and just because it's just assumed that someone's going to tell you their process. If they don't, you think they're an asshole.
Yeah, and most likely there's a video online to show you how to do it. It's much easier than
Yeah, like the thing with CNC, it's being more acceptable because there's information. Like I literally, from knowing 2D CAD and nothing, I was fairly good on a manual mill, figuring out setups and processes on it. But like I knew nothing about CNC or CAM or 3D. And 9 months later, I had a CNC in my shop, and 2 weeks after that, I had a knife off the machine.
Yeah. And when you're just a conventional machinist, you don't know chip loads or.
I still don't. It's been 4 years. I still don't know. I still don't know what chip load means. I know what it means. I don't know.
I think you do. If you got your feeds, understand your feed rates.
Yeah, but I don't know how to measure it by chip load. Like I'll measure like people measure the thickness of their chips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do that. I just inch per minute, like RPM, and I figure
nice.
it out.
With today's CAM programs, you really.
Yeah, whenever I call for some speeds and feeds, and they're talking about SFMs, I'm like, can you give me that in RPMs and IPMs?
It's actually a pretty easy formula.
Yeah, well, now I know the formula. I keep it posted everywhere because they'll always give you SFMs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know what that means. But now I have the formula, so I translate it.
Got to convert it over.
Yeah, because they'll usually give you SFMs, which is like. Surface feet per minute, and then they'll give you the chip load. So it's like they'll give you that, and then how thick the chip would be.
Yeah,
but that's not really the info I need.
That's.
And you have to do. Yeah, then you have to use formulas and plug stuff in together and then figure out what you actually.
Yeah, and once you get your RPM and your SFM, you can get your feed rate based on the amount of
the mathematicals.
It's based on the amount of flutes on your cutting tool.
Yeah, it's also it's essentially that math you used to do in school. That used to be like, find X, and you're like, why is there fucking letters in math? And now I have to do that math.
Well,
so we got the Revolution and we got the Wheel, which were the two more recent models that you were making a lot of.
Yeah.
Or
a lot of for
at least for like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Or since you started making the fire.
I've done about 100 of them since the fire.
Okay.
And I have 100 blades that are ground and polished,
Interesting.
and 75 of them are at the DLC coder right now.
Hell yeah.
So
DLC.
So those,
I just
are
had
you,
some stuff test DLC, and it
I'm
didn't come
doing.
out the best.
are you bringing that to Blade Show this year?
Yeah, I got 20 handles, 20 clips,
Wow.
and so it'll be all blacked out.
Nice.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm putting my name in a hat for one
You're
of those.
still at that. You're still at that center booth thing terminal.
Oh yeah.
We got our big booth.
You guys are actually like just right across the aisle from
From
Wee
Wee.
Knives.
We're right
Yeah.
next to Wee.
Are you guys taking like accepting people? I'd love to be part of that booth.
Accepting people.
Do you let people into your booth circle?
Not readily.
Pretty OG
It-
booth
No.
to
it's
be
a great
included in.
spot.
It's a good location. This year we have Brian Fellholter.
Oh,
He's
all right.
he's taking the spot that Jeremy Marsh was in. They're moving up to his booth. The one that
Oh,
Brian was in.
Jeremy's not going to be there anymore.
Jeremy and Bill Burke are moving into Brian's old booth, which is just
Oh,
up the
okay.
row, like 3 booths. So
Uh-huh.
Brian's is going to be sharing the showcase with me up front, and we got Chad Nichols and Nottingham Bubba, who also makes pens. And then in the other corner, we got Steve Kelly, the Tie Connector, and George Palagonia with AMX, American Metal Exchange. So with that and the carbon fiber, it's kind of a good place to buy supplies. And the front showcases are going to have Brian's pens, and I got some really neat stuff planned.
Anything you want to tip us off on?
Yeah, I'll do it. Kershaw was kind enough to sell me 150 launch 8s.
Oh, put my name on one of them.
And so that's your newest model. People are probably slightly familiar with it, but
it's just come out. It's only been it was released at SHOT Show, but
I can't get any.
They've now shipped their second batch, and it was pre-sold. Both batches were just pre-orders.
Right.
So the ones I'm getting, I asked for them without inlays, and I've got 7 different materials that I'm going to cut inlays for.
Nice.
And
Now, do you still have a CNC set up at your
Definitely
shop?
going to need one of those.
Yeah, I do.
Now, what machine do you have at the shop?
They're both small. I've got an MCO, which is a 30 taper, 10 tool changer. It's made in Austria. And then I've got one sitting in my living room that's made by Intellitech. It's without a tool changer.
Intellitech.
And it's made by a company in New Hampshire that makes them basically for universities. They're a teaching tool. They're teaching code.
I've never heard of those. I gotta.
And it's about 300 pounds, size of a microwave oven, and pretty stable.
It's like a mini mill.
No, much smaller. It doesn't have a base.
What?
And I made all the fires on that.
Oh wow.
All the wheels. Without a tool changer.
What? How is that even possible?
A lot of mounting. A lot of mounting. Back and forth.
Physical labor.
And so that's what you cut the inlays for these special Blade Show launches on.
I'm going to cut them on this because it's a single op.
I've seen these before, but I've never heard of anyone owning one.
Yeah. Had it for a long time.
Is that lathe worth it?
What's that?
That lathe they make.
Oh, no. I mean, like I said, it's a teaching tool. This has a cast granite base, L-shaped base that's like a granite composite. So it's got a lot of density to it.
So tell us a little bit about the Launch 8 and the style.
Launch 8s, they're going to be custom marked Blade Show 2019 with my logo on the back, and different inlays. I've got marble carbon fiber. I got lightning strike. I got ivory G10. I got some abalone.
Ooh.
And then I just
Real
got-
or that laminated stuff?
Yeah, laminated stuff.
I hate it.
You can't. It's only 40 thou thick. This inlay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's pretty-
I have
it's
some.
a pretty
I
thin
bought
inlay.
a bunch of laminated stuff at Blade Show, and like I just
Yeah.
can't bring myself to use it because
Yeah,
you see wherever they shove the pieces together, the lines or the
you
pattern
really
changes.
can.
Yeah,
I don't know. Tony's using it on his stuff. Seems to work.
Yeah, I mean it gets the point of the
Yeah.
material across. The
It's
people
good.
collectors do like it. It's a great look.
Yeah. And then I just got yesterday my package from what the hell? Fat Carbon.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, we got some of that
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
yeah. I got a
Julius?
big ass package coming in of that stuff.
His seems like a pretty cool guy. He's from Lithuania.
Yep.
Some pretty good looking materials, that's for sure.
Really
I pretty
good.
much got everything
That's
he's making right now.
But
Yeah,
I know,
that's a pretty
I know why
good-
he goes by Fat Carbon. If you ever saw his name.
What's
Is
his
he a
name?
big dude?
Oh, let me. No, it's a. What is it? Ovidius Juicius.
Oh,
No shit.
Nice.
nice. That's
That's
pretty
awesome.
Is he a cast member in Norbert? Orbit?
Lithuanian. He probably plays hockey.
right.
Juicius.
Juicius.
Wow, that's worth changing your name to that.
He needs a nickname.
Right. Yeah. So it's something a little bit shorter.
Oh,
So you're
okay.
wow.
Awesome.
So you're actually bringing some serious heat to Blade Show this year. Like between the special edition launch eights,
Yeah.
having some revolutions, and repping the Fibersmith, like
Yep.
it's gonna be a pretty big year for you.
Matt's
And they
always
got
got a big show. Come
I
on.
got my re-op project that I'm hoping comes. I should have something by then.
You know, I think I
Oh
remember.
yeah, we
seeing
didn't even.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So David's making me a integral flipper.
That's gonna be
Hmm.
cool.
Some of them with inlays. Yeah, it's nice size. It's like Sabenza size.
And that's an OEM project, so that'll be your logo.
Yeah, it's my
Okay.
logo. Not going to do very many of them. 100 of each.
Oh wow.
So it's going to be
Very
kind of
limited.
limited.
Hmm.
Yeah, looking
Okay.
forward to it. I don't know that I could get it made here in the United States. The work that he's doing. As
Right.
much as it pains me to say that. I mean, you could.
Pretty impressive.
It would
Yeah.
cost. It would be unfeasible cost-wise.
Mhm.
Is it still a dual action that you're modifying, or
No, because it's integral. I can't even get.
Oh, I
into it.
didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh wait, did you show?
There's a
me?
challenge.
Did you show? it
Yeah.
to me? Okay.
I showed you
I
the first
remember that.
samples, and
Yeah.
I've changed a lot since then. But it's
Yeah, I remember
basically
seeing
the
that.
same
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
shit.
So yeah, so it's a giant year for you. All right.
It should be
And
a good Blade show.
What's I mean, since you mentioned it, I don't know if you can, but what's the timeline on the re-up project? What are we looking at? End of the year for that, or you're talking about delivery
Supposed to
soon?
have some by Blade show. I don't know though.
Oh wow. Okay.
He's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
So you've got projects in the work. Is there any other awesome Diskin projects that we should be keeping our eye open for?
That pretty much covers knife wise.
Gotcha.
In the
I mean,
meantime,
that's
There's-
intense.
I have other stuff in the works, obviously. But
Right.
Anything watch related or anything like that?
Oh yeah,
I would like to make some more bracelets.
That would be awesome.
I
So-
have a bracelet for my Vacheron overseas that's almost done.
Oh wow.
Um,
That is a little bit sacrilegious, customizing a Vacheron, but
I know
that is
it
pretty
does.
cool.
It is. So it'll be an all Damascus bracelet.
Oh,
Stained
well, that makes
Damascus.
that makes sense.
Initially, I had intended to make the case and do the whole bit,
Wow.
but I don't know that I'm ever going to do that. So I think I'm just going to mount it on my Vacheron. So, yeah, the bracelets are fun.
The one you made in Damascus for your Panerai
right.
is
Yeah,
definitely pretty awesome. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
nuts.
I like the Damascus one you made. Damascus seems a little fruity. That much of it on a wrist. All the colors.
Yeah, it
Doesn't
has
Doesn't Svi own one of your bracelets that you made?
He does.
Yeah,
That's
that's pretty cool.
Did you make more than the 3 that you had that time?
I've made 4 so far.
Oh wow.
2 Damascus, 3 Damascus, and then 1 Damascus. And then I got Mokume parts in the jig bore right now, but they've just been sitting idle for a couple weeks.
Now, question about the jig, because I'm working on something that's copper and brass, and like I'm worried about staining the like clothes green. Now, won't that stain your wrist green, being that it's copper?
I think it will. My plan was kind of to maybe electroplate the inside gold or something like that.
Just the inside?
Yeah, just on the
you
inside.
can mask it, yeah.
Yeah, you know how you like line a ring?
I was planning on probably doing like a urethane dip or some sort of thin clear coating spray or something.
Even you can get clear coat, powder coat. That would work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. Yeah, just blast the underside.
A clear Cerakote.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the product that I want to make, I'm afraid that once the copper patinas, it's going to ruin the clothing.
Yeah. A lot of people are really sensitive to that shit. Acidic.
Yeah, those bracelets are bonkers.
Yeah. Never something I intended to do commercially. There's a guy who's got a new one out, Co Designs.
Oh, I've seen that. He does the fat carbon bracelet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I
He's
really
got
like the jigsaw flavor to it.
Yeah, he's got his own link that he's making now and mixing and matching materials. It's pretty cool. He's making his own clasp even.
Yeah, I designed a bracelet back in the day, but I couldn't figure out a good way to make a clasp. So I never really pursued it. And then the clasp that I came up with was pretty much all based on water jet tolerances.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a C frame, like a C thing that'll snap onto a pivot pin, essentially. Well, I didn't know how. I never really pursued it. It was like a big beefy titanium bracelet, kind of like the Homac bracelet. But I was inspired by Starling. Is it Starling Gear or Steel Flame?
Steel Flame.
They make one almost also similar to that. But that's
the links.
Yeah, so I was inspired by that one. But this was like 6-7 years ago when I first started making knives.
I gave up on clasps. I try and find used Panerai ones or used decent ones that I can, that aren't too much money. They're still usually a couple $100 to buy the clasp.
To continue on with watches, what do you got in the collection that is pretty cool?
Yeah.
Anything vintage?
Not really too old. Oldest watch is a fake Rolex.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
That I got when I was like 6 years old. I got a couple Panerais and 2 Vacheron overseas.
Yeah, those Vacherons are pretty awesome. I've seen one in person.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, the one you have. Yeah.
It's my favorite of that sporting group of the, the AP Royal Oak or the.
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
Patek, Vacheron, and AP.
Yeah, Paddock's got their all stainless steel one.
Yeah.
I can't think of it, but yeah, and Vacheron's been my. I don't like the newer one. They just redid it, and I don't like it. I like the middle-aged overseas model. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, a lot of those are kind of considered, I guess you could say, old man's watches. But, some of them are more like contemporary stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's still one of the best watch manufacturers in the world, I'd think. So
yeah, they are top notch. Yeah.
I mean, anything that's been around that long and continues to be made is, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
People still appreciate it. People still buy it,
And what else? I got an old black dialed sub. Not old vintage, but.
What's the reference number on that? You might have a gold mine.
It's not.
He'd probably. Well, Matt's a Jew. He'd know at this point if he had a gold mine.
I know where my gold mines lie.
Yeah, Matt doesn't just have like gold mines sitting around. He it's all accounted for.
Like, oh, I didn't realize that was that until that podcast, and then I just looked at my Rolex. Obviously, that's
Whoops.
yeah. Oh man, shucks.
What else is going
I just
on?
saw I yesterday I found a sub no date 1994. The price is so good, but like it's just such bad timing.
Yeah, it's a
Big
1994.
purchases
You
like
didn't
that.
mention that. That's my birthday.
Never good timing.
Yeah, it was 94.
No, it's just in the market
Gotta-
for an excellent deal. No.
You gotta send me the link to that.
Fuck you. I'm hopefully it's around long
Well, I
enough to where it
still buy
become a good time.
I'm just gonna go ahead and buy that.
Yeah, it's amazing Rolex's value and popularity.
Oh, it's
It
insane.
really is.
Yeah. I mean,
Because you
I
must
think
have-
it all kicked off with the Paul Newman going for like $18 million. Oh,
Well, yeah, and nobody wanted them initially, but they're just the way that
yeah.
they are one of the most prolific of all of the high-end watchmakers.
Well, it
Yeah,
became the watch back in the day where it's like you're 40
Yeah,
years
it was-
old and
it
you're
was-
successful. It's what you bought.
Yeah, it was the thing to achieve.
And what most
It
people
still
don't realize is like Timex is an older brand, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is crazy. Huh. Well,
Yeah. They've been very successful in the like very short time.
Mhm.
Oh, that's crazy.
So is there anything else we missed on? We didn't really talk about Fibersmith, but you'll see Matt at Blade Show. He'll have his
Yeah.
various
Carbon
carbon
fiber.
fibers.
Come to
Wow.
Blade
Whole
Show,
nother-
people.
that's a whole nother story where I stumbled on 100,000 pounds of pre-preg carbon fiber.
Just stumbled upon it. It was just right there.
It was just kicking around.
It kind of was. It's
We need to go into that story, maybe.
This giant warehouse full of stuffs.
when I first moved back up to Seattle, there was this place called Boeing Surplus Supply. It was a giant store that was basically the garbage can for Boeing.
I wish they still let casuals in there.
Well, they don't. It doesn't even exist anymore. They have a little website. where the
Yeah,
auctions
they
can
have
fit
one in
off.
California, but like they used to let people in, same as
Yeah.
that one. But now you
And
need
this-
special licenses, and I want
This,
to go.
this compared to the one in Long Beach, this was like 20 times the size.
Well,
Mm.
that's what that one. That show was massive.
And it was, there's 4 airports here, and 3 of them are owned by Boeing.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And so the 747, the 737, all the composite shit with the 57 and the 777, it's all made within like a 40-mile radius of downtown Seattle.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And they're the biggest employer in the area, and one of the major anchors for the economy, Puget Sound. So basically they had the store there, and I used to go and get titanium for other knife makers, and early on that's how I met a lot of people like Mel Pardue and stuff. I was selling them titanium, and this is before Chuck at Alpha Knife. He was actually working at Boeing at the time, and I used to see him down there, and he was just in the beginning of starting Alpha Knife Supply
Oh,
by
okay.
buying titanium down there. So initially I ended up buying a couple rolls of, I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was Kevlar, and it turned out to be dry fabric carbon fiber. So I found some guy down in Portland, laid it all up for me in sheets, and I was able to sell it. And I went to the store so much that I got pretty friendly with the guy who was in charge of it, reclamation, and he kind of steered me that they were going to get to a point where they had to release all of the carbon fiber from the Dreamliner, the 787.
Hmm.
The production had gone over by 4 years because they had all these supplier problems. They had pre-purchased all this pre-preg that went out of date on them. For aircraft, it has to be used up within a certain amount of time, or else it's no longer certified to fly.
Not.
So they had literally 700,000 pounds to get rid of.
Damn.
and not all of it was woven. Most of the planes are made up with unidirectional, and like a quasi ISO layup or a 090 layup. And then the woven,
in layman's terms,
quasi ISO just means that there's a 45-degree angle every other sheet. So 090 is what it sounds like. Just one way, then turn 90 degrees the other way.
Mm-hmm.
The quasi's got 45s in between, so it makes it a little stronger. So the 787, the entire fuselage is made of wound carbon fiber. The wing structure is all carbon fiber. The empennage, which is the tail section, is that's all made out of uni on the 757, the 777, and the 787.
Well, I would imagine that was all aluminum, not carbon fiber.
It's all solid carbon fiber and has been for a long time, maybe 40 years now.
Wow.
See, I always thought it was like a normal fiberglass material.
Nope, solid carbon and then machined.
Wow.
Machined into blocks. The empennage, anyways. The fuselage, which is you know what that is? That's the whole tube part of the airplane.
It's like the belly, right? Or the whole tube, you're saying?
The sausage-shaped tube. On the 787, which is the first plane they used on it, it's wound with half-inch tape, with these tape winding machines that wrap it around. It's all one strand. And interwoven, then they run the whole fuselage into a giant autoclave to cure it.
Oh my God.
This is some serious shit right here.
Yeah. Football field and a half, one of the world's.
Wow.
And so anyways, they had all this material that they basically had to throw away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was steered towards a way to purchase what I needed. I ended up with 100 pallets, roughly, here and there, and I had to figure out what to do with it because it's not an easy material to process. It's not just like regular carbon fiber where you squirt some juice on it. It's a high temperature pre-preg, and it takes a lot of pressure and high temperature to cure it, which is beneficial because it stays pretty stable. Some of my materials, like 12 years old, and it still cures up just fine. But it's got to remain frozen. So this whole time I've maintained a giant space at a cold storage facility with all
this entire time.
Fiber. And so, when you go to cure it, it's frozen. You let it thaw a little bit, and you unroll it, and you layer it up, and then you cure it either in an autoclave or a big press. And so I found a guy who actually makes the presses. And instead of buying one, which I probably should have done initially, although they're a couple $100,000, he's just basically been able to lay up the panels as I've needed for me. And I've got a couple guys that'll lay up panels for me. And for curve stuff, there's a couple autoclaves that I use.
Mm-hmm.
So
what do you mean by curved stuff?
Do some helicopter parts.
I gotcha.
And, anything that has a curve. Flat panels can be done on the press, or angle. We can do angles too. But anything with multiple curves has to be autoclaved.
You look all careful.
And so basically that's how Fibersmith got formed. I have all this material, and
so you're still working off the same stuff. So once you sell out, you're pretty much out.
Pretty much, it's not going to become available again. I ran out of uni. I had 20 pallets of uni, and I sold it all back to a company basically that was Boeing at one point. They sold it back to. But it turned out to be
around.
Yeah, funny enough.
Did you have like that in negotiations? Like, we know what you paid for this.
No, they weren't. There was one day, and there's been several auctions through the years that I've won since. And there was one day where I got a purchase order from Boeing and bought 10 pallets of pre-preg that I sold right back to them the same day.
What?
Now that is some hustling right there.
It's such a big company that like they don't even realize what's going on the other end. One end needs to place the order, and the other side needs to sell.
Yeah, Reclamation does not get in contact with purchasing. So
wow,
that's so awesome.
That is baller, dude. That's nuts.
That's some crazy right there.
Got to charge them 10 times what I paid for it.
That's literally free money.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
no, free money is some of his other business endeavors.
So I've gone through a good portion. I got 45 pallets left. So it'll probably last me another 10 years.
Wow.
And that's how Fibersmith came about. The marble carbon fiber it's not done on a press. It's just made with an infusion table with what's called chopped toe, which is strands of it, and then lay that up basically in a mold, and then it's got this real topographic surface after it's laid up, and then it's flat sanded from there.
Just kind of like
so I always thought it was
run through like a
bunch of end cuts. Essentially, I just kind of smeared it together.
It's a dry fabric, but it's just like strands of it.
So it's just like laid at random, like crisscrossing, or
you grab a handful and you throw it down.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's dry. Oh. It's done dry. So infusions basically are done under a vacuum, and they call them vacuum bag, but it's really just a flat piece of plastic, and then you use this sticky tape around the edges to seal it all together. And then you run a vacuum, and you pull from one end. You pull a vacuum. The other end is your inlet for your resin. So you're basically injecting resin from one end, and it goes across and it soaks through and saturates the entire part, being sucked by the vacuum. And then once it gets to the other side, you're done with the infusion. You seal it off and let it cure. So it's how a lot of people are making carbon fiber these days in parts. It's really the easiest way to do it.
So like I have a piece of carbon fiber that we bought from you at TKI probably like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And I think that's marble that Josh bought from you. Yeah. So that's exactly what you're talking about right now. Is. Okay. Which is Boeing carbon fiber?
No, it's not Boeing. It's just purchased chopped toe, which is just random fibers. So it doesn't have anywhere near the stuff I get from Boeing is the best carbon fiber money can buy.
Right.
It's the T800, which is a very high strength. The resin itself is reinforced with rubber. So it's bomber stuff, and the marble's strictly aesthetic.
Right. Okay. Just cosmetic.
Yeah.
See, you say this, but it depends on what you're really making. In my experience, like the marble stuff doesn't machine too well because of all the random strands. If you machine it, it's the one that have voids. Yeah. But like I have a specific product, like my pod friction folder. I made 30 in marble and 30 in carbon, and out of marble, only one was a reject due to like too many voids. And on the carbon fiber side, I actually had about 22 rejects out of the 30. For the simple reason is there's a thin portion that has a sharp angle to it, and it'll actually delaminate and crack on me. And that happened a lot. Essentially, I would just drop them on the floor about 3-4 times and see if they crack. And I cracked about 22 of them. But the marble, because the weave is going up and down, it's not actually sitting on a layer. It was plenty strong. So essentially, if that spot of the handle sat, I guess, in the between layers, it cracked out of 30. It cracked 22. And I've tried your carbon. I've tried different carbons. It just
still getting it.
Anything that was weaved or layered. So it happened with the unidirectional as well. But since the marble carbon fiber, you're never really sitting on a layer. Those that I didn't have to break at all.
It's probably your tooling that's breaking the layers apart, though.
No, it would stay.
Yeah, shitty tooling, Nick. Bad job.
I would say that.
I'd
Go,
break
Nick.
from
Go on,
shock
man.
when dropping it.
Jeez, Nick.
Yeah, see, my depth of cut when I'm doing carbon fiber is real minimal. I do really fast, really small tooling, but my depth of cut's like 10 thou.
Damn, that's like nothing.
Like
Hmm.
nothing. And I just do a lot of
composites.
multiple
I hammer through shit. Well, I only have 6,000 RPM, so when I was using the router with 24,000 RPMs, I was machining it differently.
Yeah.
Well, the carbon fiber's got more of a propensity to chipping, right? And shearing off.
Certainly if you load it hard, it does. Yeah,
You can like splinter and stuff.
it definitely does. It's a
that,
shitty
yeah.
material to machine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really hard on tooling.
It's not even hard. It's hard on the machine because like the powder that comes off of it. Imagine just you take a pencil and grind it into something, and you have this very fine powder that stains everything.
Oh, I do
And-
everything.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happens with the carbon fiber. My machine looks like you just
So like powders up, like collects on everything. Yeah.
yeah.
So I filter my coolant as it's
If
coming out of the machine.
yeah, but it clogs my filters instantly with a carbon. Like for example, like 2 carbon fiber plates clogs my filters as much as like 15 G10 plates.
So I use cheap pleated house filters.
Yeah, that's pretty much like a whole house water filter, right?
No. The cheap furnace filters. They're like $3 at Home Depot. And it's like just a pleated piece of fabric. Okay. I run it across that before it gets into the tank, which has the filter in it. And that takes 99% of the particulate out.
Yeah, that's my problem with the mini mill. Whoever designed that, the engineer.
Yeah, it goes straight to the
you know what I'm talking about. He go fuck himself. Like,
So-
there's no way to filter between the cutter and the sub, and then like the only access to the 30-gallon tank is like a 6x8 porthole.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
it's a stupid design.
So I filter it out, and it's, from my experience, it doesn't become an emulsion. The carbon fiber stays in particulate in solution, so it's not like a paint. As long as you can trap the particulate, your coolant goes clear again.
Yeah, so I would so I have 2 pretty much trash cans. And I'll take a big ass rubber band, and I have I think it's 30 micron paper that I buy in McMaster by like 50-yard rolls, and I'll stretch it over the top, and I'll keep pouring the coolant I'll pour the coolant out of the CNC into the trash can through that mesh, and then once that's filtered through, I'll put the mesh on the other trash can, then pour it from one trash can to the other trash can, and then back into the machine. But that's a whole day. It's like an entire day of work. Yeah. Because the filters keep clogging and you have to keep rewrapping it.
Yeah, it's a pain, and it's at least you're doing it under coolant. I hear a lot of people going, "Oh, I'm just doing."
So the carbon I'll do under coolant because it's so fine. It doesn't come off as chips. It comes off as a powder. G10 I don't do under coolant now. I used to, but now I actually jimmy rig a vacuum to it because it comes off as chips. So you can actually the vacuum will actually grab it.
Yeah.
Unlike the carbon fiber, which it doesn't. So the G10, I'll use the vacuum. I'll kind of use the lock line, the coolant line, and wrap it around the hose. So it moves. The hose will move with the head.
Mm-hmm.
It works very well. But for the carbon, since it's not enough mass, it doesn't really take. It misses a lot of it. So I tend to do composites every 6 months. Yeah, like every 6 months, I'll do like right now I have to do a fuck ton of composite. And my coolant is getting bad. Like, it's starting to rust my machine, and it's just old. Mm-hmm. So, now I'll do a bunch of composite, and I'll empty out the machine, clean it out. There's probably bacteria in there. And do the whole flush the system, and then put a new coolant, and then I won't do any composites for a little while. So I try to plan it around times where I'll have to do a full clean out of the machine anyway.
Yeah, I hear you. I do that too.
Yeah, it's pain.
Composites at once.
So a dedicated machine will be to go for if it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just have a 40K spindle.
Yeah, but even if I had like a VF2, like a full size house, I wouldn't mind it because then like since the coolant tank is separate, I could put staged filters in.
Yep.
But the Haas mini wheel, there's no like everyone I've ever talked to, there's no way to really add a filter except if you bypass the sub and built your own sub.
And then repump it back.
Yeah, but then like that's so I counted the cost to build it and then the time involved. I'm like, honestly, I could just sell this machine and buy the bigger one, and it'd be cheaper. Like I came up with all these plans. I'm like, none of this makes sense. So I only have a filter between the sub and the cutter, so that way at least it doesn't shoot chips at my cutter, and it'll filter out. Then like I have a whole house water filter right before the nozzles.
All right, what did I miss? I had to go grab some pizza.
Oh yeah.
We talked
Carbon
about what
fiber
happened.
and
Talked about what
coolant.
happened in Amsterdam, some other stuff.
Yeah.
Coolant, carbon
So
fiber.
no, but the carbon
Let's talk
fiber
about
business has been a successful one for you, and I know that you do supply carbon fiber to a great deal of the makers and companies that most people have seen, probably not known that that's your carbon fiber. If that's right.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
a lot of the Kershaw stuff early on. 777.
I was just about to say, get into the 777 a little bit. So we're on that.
The next one they did, I think, was the 454.
Mm-hmm.
And that had mine on it. Some of that RJ, remember that RJ Martin ZT that had like the diamond shaped texture?
I think so.
Mid titanium. It was kind of a big blade, so that had a carbon fiber inlay on some of them. Yeah, I was a supplier for him for a long time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think we're going about 2.5 hours. I think it's a good time to start wrapping up.
Nice.
Got some good stories in there for sure.
Yeah. So we'll go through all of Matt's history because people don't ever like realize how much Matt has done and what his actual talents are from journeyman blacksmith, master machinist, quality machining, carbon fiber, to supplier.
You can almost say he's a master of all trades.
Yeah. Well, it's called jack of all trades, but okay.
Masturbator.
Definitely a master.
And you don't really. So I mean, the thing is, you are, and we joke that you are a knife maker, but you're not taking orders. You just make what you want to make.
No,
Nobody.
I don't have orders.
Yeah. Don't ask Matt to make you anything.
He's still working on orders from 10 years ago. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, I threw those away a long time ago.
There you go.
Forget about it.
That's the way to do it. Make what you want when you want.
Right.
Yeah.
But you will be a blade with some freshness and some goodness.
Sounds like Blade's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it sounds like it's going to be a pretty good loadout.
Yeah.
From
I think the
you.
launches will be pretty popular, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. Probably first come first serve, starting at like Saturday at 1. Is my thinking.
Okay.
Why not Friday?
Or Friday at 1. That's what I meant.
I was like,
I will be there Friday at 1.
So
definitely want to get
I
one.
think that's probably the fairest way to do it, and maybe get some people lined up.
You have too many to do lotteries and stuff like that. Just
There's going to be at most 20 of each per inlay material.
Okay. Now,
it should be good.
Where can we where's the best place to find information about your Blade Show drop? Are you doing promotions anywhere?
I'm gonna put it on my Instagram page.
On the Instagram?
When I finally get them in, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna start taking pictures of the different inlays.
So his Instagram is Matt Diskin, one word, and there's no icon. It's
That's it.
Default background.
That's it.
That's true OG right there. No icon.
OG.
No
what's
icon.
What's your Blade Show booth number, or what can we find? You're across from the.
Shit, I think it's 632.
It's like right adjacent from the right caddy corner from the Wii booth. So
okay.
So
it's
one
right
of the 3 center mass like booth clusterfuck areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's not Microtech, it's probably Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a good, real high traffic location.
Oh, very, yeah.
It seems that everyone passes through there at one point.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What does your show schedule look like for this year, Matt?
I think we're doing a lot of the same stuff. I got
Yeah.
got the gathering. Then I'm gonna do Jade's show.
Nice.
Or at least be there. The handbill. Then
After that is CCAC.
well,
The
even
gathering
before
is
CCAC,
first.
I told him I don't think I'm getting a table at the gathering this year, but I'm gonna go.
Oh, good. Come hang out.
It's always
I'll
been
message you.
too much pressure with the France show that I got to leave 10 days later
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like
after
the
the
next
gathering.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
after the gathering. So,
Now you exhibit at CCAC?
oh yeah, for a
Oh.
long time now.
I'll be there for this will be my first time.
Go with the table?
No, I'm just going. I've never been there
okay.
before.
Yeah,
I don't
we'll have
know
a
what
good
kind of
time.
clientele is there. If that's like if I could sell, like if my knives are known there or what. So I
Oh,
gotta
for sure.
see that show first before dropping all the money. Plus the trip is gonna cost me a lot of money since my parents are flying out with me
Well,
towards that way.
oh, cool. Bring a couple knives. You can put them on my table.
I'm gonna probably just bring like maybe like 2 or 3 just to show around.
Yeah, doesn't hurt. Yeah, it's a vibrant show. There's a lot of people there, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was supposed to exhibit last year, but that didn't really work out. But this year I will be exhibiting some stuff, some OEM stuff. Yeah.
Now, are you going to Amsterdam with us? That's the true question.
That is the true question. Yeah.
That is the true
So
question.
my days are.
Yeah. What are your days? We need to know.
I'm going to Amsterdam Sunday because the show ends Saturday.
Yeah, we were thinking about heading
we're
out on
going to
Monday.
Amsterdam Sunday.
Is it Sunday or Monday morning?
Yeah, so I'll be there through Tuesday night, something like that. Wednesday. So I got to go see. I got to go see Doc up in England.
Oh yeah,
the
the tattoo guy. We met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to get a tattoo from that guy.
You got to go to Plymouth.
Yeah, Plymouth, England, right?
Find your way to Plymouth, England.
Yeah, I need to get up there anyway to visit some homestead of the old family. So,
yeah.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna walk in there like hello and leave, or like do you still have family that lives out there?
I'm from the West Country.
Just show them your ID and be like, "Yeah, this is mine." Like, is that your plan? And then they'll give you like a honorary like hat and be like, "All right."
I mean,
one of
it's
us
very
now.
possible because there's like a town.
Honorary hat, a slap on the ass, and on your way.
You got the Nottingham Forest look going already, so fit right.
Yeah, there you go. I just popped in from Sherwood here to see what was up.
Exactly.
I came back home.
Here to reclaim my land.
For my peoples.
Where were they from? Wales?
Isham, England. Yeah.
Oh, there's a town?
Yep.
Where is it?
It's in Northamptonshire.
Okay.
So it's if you Google
I'm looking right now.
Yeah. Isham, England, or Lampert Hall. That was actually my old family's home for a while. Little known fact, the Ishams actually invented the garden gnome, which is pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Midlands.
Yep. Yeah, it's up there. It's like 65, 70 kilometers
North of London.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do an outro and then bullshit? It's like
yeah.
All right.
Whatever, sit around talking about
reel
carbon
back.
fiber fucking dust for like an
we're
hour.
talking about gnomes,
shit about that. Like, I put a filter over my garbage can. Like, shut up, Nick. Nobody cares about that. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We're just talking about bullshit.
All right.
Now.
You gotta pause for a second.
Should be fun to edit.
This will be it's always a blast listening to everyone's voice all over again in my head.
Do you want me
all right, so
intro?
let me do the finish up, and then we'll do the
You're leaving all this in, right?
Yeah.
You might as well at this point.
Yeah, so,
all right, so that sounds like shut up, Nick.
I'm gonna do the outro.
Shut up, Nick. Nobody talk for like 5 seconds. Okay, so that sounds like a really good position for your Blade Show booth. It sounds like you're gonna have an awesome drop, probably around 1 p.m. on Friday for those launch 8s. We've got your Instagram where people can find out. Do you Facebook at all?
I do have Facebook. It's a little more personal, but
okay, all right. Well, we'll keep it that way. But either way, come to Blade Show. Come see Matt. Say hi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the Bladeology podcast and hanging out with us and talking trash about knives. I appreciate that.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
All right, probably get
Oh,
your story out.
real good.
Get your story out there finally, properly. Cough, knife, let's cough.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Okay, so this is Nick Chuperin. You can find me at NCC Knives at Instagram and NCC Knives at yahoo.com or nccknives.com.
This is Elijah Isham. You can find me on my Instagram at Isham Bladeworks and my personal Instagram at
This is Jeremiah Burbank. It's been a pleasure. My day job is on Instagram at pvk.vegas. My personal Instagram is just pvkjer. Thanks so much, everybody. Matt, lead us out.
Yep. This is Matt Diskin. Thank you guys very much. Out.